bespoke radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
I need your help to get to the year 1985.
You're listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Hey now. Time to buckle up. Put up your seat backs, fold up the tray tables. Fade to Black is here. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah, man. Today's Tuesday, July 5th. 188 days into the new year. 178 days left. We are live from a bunker somewhere in downtown Burbank, California. I'd like to welcome everybody listening all around the world, all across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, north and south, far and near. This is Fade to Black. For KJCR, the Game Changer Network, and KGRA, the Planet, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What's cracking, everybody? Man, I'm fired up. July 5th. I hope everybody had a great time yesterday. Everything was safe. Last night after the show, get back to the house on the back patio, watching the fireworks, and somebody pulls up in a car, right? Don't really see this happening because we have a, big brick security wall separating us from the masses, right? And all of a sudden this explosion happens. And it's just one of those huge fireworks things, just shooting out of the ground. And I run up, take a look, and I'm serious. I thought, man, my house is going to burn down. And they took off in the car, went down to the end of the street to watch it. And I'm like, man, but that was it. That was all of the action that we had last night. But there you go. I hope everybody was safe and had a good time spending it with family and friends, and you barbecued and you did everything. And tonight you just get to kick back, recover, and the best thing to do after recovering after the 4th on the 5th is listen to this show and Bloody Marys. That's what you do. And it'll just put you right. It'll center you. It'll get you back. And you need that little extra shot of Tabasco. I do black pepper, too, right on the top. You stir that in, you get that black pepper thing. Don't get me started. I am so ready. We haven't been able to, the entire time in Roswell, we were so busy. We didn't go out and have fun. We worked the entire time, and here we are. 4th of July, couldn't do anything. Here it is the 5th, and we have to chill out this weekend. I'm over at Coast all weekend. And then starting on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, I'm filming and doing the show at night. Oh, man. Yeah. What they say, it's the life you chose. Every time I would complain to my dad, come home, man, I gotta practice guitar. I gotta read this sheet music. And, I gotta, it's the life you chose. And which has always just set me straight. You can't really complain, can you? You don't like it, go do something else, right? That's the way life is. Can't complain. Life is good. Tonight we have with us Victor Viggiani. He's going to be here to discuss his NORAD document disclosure, that is, stirring up the UFO world out there. And I've looked over a bunch of the documents, and I got to tell you, there's something going on. I've always said on this program, there's something going on in Canada, man. Something going on in Canada. And now it just appears to be all of North America. So there you go. The NORAD document disclosure tonight. Tomorrow night, Joshua P. Warren's going to be here. And we're going to talk about the laws of attraction and his latest research. And if you haven't been over to his website, go and check it out. There's an amazing Homeland Security video there of an object cruising around and over Puerto Rico that splits into two and dives in the water. It's a crazy video. Check that out. We'll be talking about that tomorrow night, too, as well. And Thursday night, Fader night, open lines with John Rappaport. No more fake newsroom. Man, seems like I haven't had open lines here in forever, but it was just last Wednesday. But it just seems like a long time. Can't wait to get to Thursday night. Love it. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do, at JChurchRadio. All right. And everything else, follow, like, and subscribe. Just go to the website and click around. I was just looking. Tara just tweeted out, and she says, I see on the website that you may have membership soon. Any ETA on that? Look, what we're going to do, I'm going to do a little bit of disclosure here myself. We're going to put together a special little back room thing for the Fadernauts. Okay, and so it's going to incorporate a lot of different things, and so it's not a membership. We're not ever going to have a pay thing here. This show will always be free, and that's that. Okay, that's it. That's the way this is. But there is an idea that we're putting together here, and we've been working on it for probably 6 months. Gathering stuff together and how we're going to do this. We have the engine ready and how it's going to run, but it's going to have some exclusivity to it. So the front of the website, everything there, everything that you know and love, the way that the show runs now, it's going to be the same. Nothing's going to change. YouTube, podcast, the show, our distribution, KGRA, all of that, everything will remain the same. But we just want to do something really cool for the Fadernauts. And we're going to tie that in. So we'll figure it all out, okay? All right? And when we're ready, we'll make that announcement. But it's going to be pretty cool. So, all right. Let's see. You can email throughout the show, Jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. What a show last night. My goodness, Manu. What a conversation. I can't wait to get Manu back on this show. Man. He's the kind of guy, Manu is the kind of guy that you want to invite over to your house when you have a dinner party, you have a party. Manu's the guy you want to sit down with and drink a couple bottles of wine. You just know it's going to be perfect. Manu. And I can tell you right now, we're going to do that really soon. I can't wait. And that's one of the joys of living in Southern California is, when you have a guest like that, a lot of guests like that, like Manu, they live right here. Yeah, I know. Jimmy, don't talk about it, but it's really true. And I'm just in the position to go, hey, dude, you want to come over? Because we just happen to live a city or two away from each other. And so, anyway, where was I? Hashtag F2B's the sandbox. Hashtag F2BQ. You have any questions or comments during the show, go and do it. All right? Life Change Tea. I did it right before. I want you to listen to this. Listen. Hear that? That's 2 bottles with the drippers, right? The what do you call that? What do you call the drippers? See, I don't have any. I'm alone in the bunker right now. Rita's not here. Eyedroppers, and the moringa extract and the olive leaf extract right before the show. 2 full doses right in the mouth. Man, I was telling Ronnie last night I would drink One of these days, I'm just going to see what would happen. I'm just going to chug a bottle of the Moringa. It'll turn me into Deadpool. I promise. Anyway, Life Change Tea. Have you changed your life with Life Change Tea? Do it today. Just go to getthetea.com. Use the promo code Jimmy. There's a Fade or Not special that is there right now. It is called the Tea and Bark. And that was interesting, wasn't it, what Ronnie said last night? Everything that I'm taking right now has to do with trees. Isn't that funny? And I've morphed into my little program that I do, and I'm doing all this. It's trees. Really funny. But I've done all of mine today. I did the colostrum, done my moringa, I've done my olive leaf, and I did the blood purifiers. I did those two as well today. So go and do it right now. Getthetea.com, promo code Jimmy. Go to the specials page. The current special for the Fade or Nots right there on the homepage. All right? And now check out also Studio Dome. Everybody, I get email every single day, every day, from people that have bought the SBB2 speaker system, the TWS True Wireless Stereo, and how great it is. And that just makes me feel wonderful. And when I throw my tremendous weight, and I'm huge, right? I'm not a small guy, behind a company, it's because I believe in the company. All right? We turn down advertisers every single day here. Turn them down. We're fine. The ones that we support are the ones that I stand behind. Life Change Tea, National Tax Experts, Studio Dome. All right, there you go. Click on the banner. Use the promo code JCRTWS. $129. There you go. All right. Awareness Life Expo is coming up. I can't believe it. August 12th, 13th, and 14th. With Richard Dolan, Lori McDonald, Victor Camacho, Patty Greer, Holly Cook. Len Kasten is going to be there. I can't wait. I've never met Len, and I'm really looking forward to that. And so there you go. There's some other speakers. I will start to announce them, I think, tomorrow or on Thursday's show. With that, let's get the show cracking. I'm going to announce now, on Thursday night, on Fader Night, I'm going to give away 2 passes to David Icke in Australia. He's got 2 shows coming up. He's got one this Saturday in Perth, and then one a week after in Sydney. Okay, so that's going to go down this Thursday night. 2 passes to David Icke. No joke, all right? So, our Australian family, and you know how much we love you, okay? Get ready. Thursday night, I'm giving away 2 passes to David Icke. Okay, and you'll be able to take your choice. Take your choice, either Perth or Sydney. And when you go, be sure. You know what? I might even be able to set it up that you can maybe go and say hi to David. All right, and tell him Jimmy sent you. There you go. All right, let's get the show cracking. Today, the man, Huey Lewis, is 66 years old. There, I said it. You know what's funny? Back in the day, early days of MTV, when Huey Lewis was blowing up, I was the long-haired Aquanet guy, right? And I'm like, man, this Huey Lewis guy, whatever. Give me some Def Leppard. Where's that Ozzy video? Man, I'm waiting for my Van Halen. And how wrong was I? Huey Lewis has turned out to be one of the all-time musical greats, man. I love everything Huey Lewis. He's got a great golf swing, too. Today, Huey is 66. Yeah, I'll go ahead and hit Twitter up right now. Give me your favorite Huey Lewis song. All right, all you metalheads, all you heavy metalheads. A bit of my new love there, Jimmy. That came in from Australia. Cortana, Studio Dome, fine-ass speakers. My mom wants to see Icke in Melbourne, not Perth or Sydney. Is he in Melbourne? If he's in Melbourne, I'll give away a pass to that. All right, but you got to call in. How old's your mom? If she really wants to go, then you got to have your mom call in. All right? Okay, where was I? Huey Lewis. Okay, also today, Lifehouse. Remember that band? Lifehouse? Lifehouse frontman Jason Wade is 36. Now, remember that song, Hanging by a Moment? All right. Yeah, hip to be square. I'm with you right there, Michael Anderson. Jason Wade. Now, I've got a little Lifehouse story. This is my show. I can tell a story. Back in, and I'm going to go with 1999, 2000. And I was running a company called Ashdown Engineering. They make bass and guitar amplifiers. And I was running the United States division for Ashdown. And so I'm sitting in my office one day, and somebody literally comes into the receptionist wanting to speak to me. And I'm listening to the conversation outside of my office. My office door was open, and I'm listening. I'm like, ooh, and he's giving her the pitch. I got a new band. We're cutting a demo, and I need a bass amplifier, right? And I said, you know what? Send him in here. He's a little kid. Oh, well, he was a big little kid, probably 20 at the time, 19 years old. His name was Sergio Andrade. And Sergio comes into my office, and there was just something about this kid, right? And he goes, man, we got this thing, and we're going to turn it into an album, and we're going to be huge, man. And we just changed our name to Lifehouse. And I was like, man, I've heard all of this before, right? We're going to be big. We're going to be big. It's our first album. Me and my next door neighbor, Jason Wade, whose birthday is today, started this band, and it's great. I'm just like, man, I'm getting sucked into this story, right? I said, what do you need? And he goes, dude, I want the John Entwistle rig. I want 2 of those, and which means this thing is like 8 feet tall, 8 feet wide, right? I want the biggest bass rig ever. I'm like, dude, it's like $12,000, right? He goes, I'll take it. I said, really? So I take a chance on this unknown band, Lifehouse. The album hadn't come out yet. And Sergio would stop by, and, every week, every other week, stop by. And we became really, really, really good friends. And he's bringing me tapes of the band as they're recording, and it's starting to sound pretty good. And then about a year later, the album comes out. And that song, Hanging by a Moment. Now, I watched this happen organically. And the chances of something like this happening, you might as well go play the lottery. Bands just don't have hit songs like that. Well, anyway, it happens. And the album comes out, and that song, Hanging by a Moment, which I had been listening to for 6 months, and I knew it was good, that thing shoots to #1 and stays there for like a year. I forget. The album, I mean, the whole thing, the Lifehouse just takes off, and I couldn't believe it. So, and I'm with the band, and we do things like, we played the Tonight Show like twice, and I'm watching these. They go and they played the Winter Olympics up in Salt Lake City. They played the opening ceremony in the stadium. I'm watching it on TV. I could not believe it. These guys that were neighbors in like Camarillo, California, whatever, went to church together and formed this band. They were never a Christian band, by the way. That was always a rumor. They were not. They were really cool. Anyway. And I watched them blow up. I watched them win the Billboard Awards in Vegas. They go and they win, Single of the Year. And it was just one of the coolest experiences of my life to watch this band just go and do it. And today, here we are. That was 2001. Here we are, 2016, 15 years later. Band is still together. Sergio left the band maybe a couple of years, 3-4 years later. But there you go. That's my Lifehouse story. And it was just really cool to see those guys rocket to the success that they had. I think today they probably sold 15, 20 million records. And it was just a guy that walked in off the street, Sergio Andrade. All right. And also there was another band back then called The Calling. Do you guys remember The Calling? The Calling and Lifehouse, they were like friends. They were buds. And the next thing you know, I got the same thing going on with and The Calling goes and takes off too. Man, it was just bizarre. It was a good year for young boy bands, 2000, 2001. All right, on this day in history, 1954, Elvis Presley records That's All Right Mama with Sam Phillips at Sun Records in Memphis, Tennessee. The rest is history on this day in 1954. Fader fact, in zero gravity, a candle's flame is round and blue. I was looking at pictures of it today. I did not know that. It's round, round and blue. There you go. Tonight, we have with us Victor Viggiani. We're going to discuss his NORAD document disclosure tomorrow night. Joshua P. Warren is here. He's got a book out called Using the Force, and it's about the laws of attraction and, how to influence the physics of everything around you to change your life. And his latest research also into not only the paranormal, but UFOs. We're going to do all of that tomorrow night. Thursday night, Fader night, open lines. John Rappaport will be here with his No More Fake newsroom. Hey, there's a picture of Wade. Man, there you go. That's Wade back in the day. Jason Wade. All right. You got any Leather Wolf stories from Michael Anderson? Michael, you don't know nothing about Leather Wolf. That's cool. How would you know about Leather Wolf? Leather Wolf was a heavy metal band here in Southern California back in the 80s. There you go. Cool story on Lifehouse, Hanging by a Moment. Hey, man, Hanging by a Moment was a cut, wasn't it? That was actually, let's see. Oh, no, not my freshman year. I was in junior high quartet. Okay, here we go. Where am I? I'm lost. I'm lost when I don't have a producer in here to work with me. Really quick, I have the feeling Rappaport's going to talk about this week and what's going on down in Rio. But the Olympic Games are just 31 days away. 31 days away. And Rio de Janeiro is in crisis mode. Violence is out of control. Police officers are at odds with the Rio state government, and they are now claiming that they have not been paid for months. The police department. And the message from the police to tourists is, we won't be able to protect you. The state's police officers vented their anger yesterday with signs saying, "Welcome to hell," outside of Rio's main airport. I'm not making this up. Police and firefighters, the signs and the quotes and the statements were, and I'm quoting here, "Police and firefighters don't get paid. Whoever comes to Rio de Janeiro will not be safe." What is going on? And at the same time, the testing of the waters now has got some kind of radical, bionic, unstoppable, super virus bacteria thing. and the reports today were that they've been looking for, and this is what's crazy for me, they've been looking for something like this in the waters for the last year, haven't been able to find it. But 31 days out, now they come out and go public saying, we have found this atomic grade nuclear bacteria. Super. Why? And the wording of it, I mean, scared the crap out of me, and I'm in Los Angeles. Scared the crap out of me. So you got the police saying, and I was watching videos and everything that they posted today about, I was watching videos of the violence in the streets. And we've always known that about Rio. Rio has got slums like we've never, we know nothing about. And we know that it's a crazy, treacherous place, and the kids that are running the street high on glue, the stalking gangs on the beaches, they just go up to somebody and whoever it is and swarm them. And we thought that all of that was cleared out. It just turns out that Brazil's broke, Rio's broke. They've dumped all of this money into this. They've tried to rid of all of the criminal activity and move them to other cities inside into the jungle, and trying to get rid of everything, to no success. And it's 31 days out. Who's going to show up? I'm not talking about fans. I'm wondering about that. But what about the athletes? Why? Why would you want to go down there? Forget Zika is the last thing you need to worry about right now, according to the police, actually. All right. Well, it also happened today. I was reticent to mention this, but FBI Director James Comey stepped up to the microphone today and said that he would not recommend charges against Hillary over the use of private email servers while she was Secretary of State. Comey's decision to not recommend charges likely removes any threat of prosecution in the middle of Clinton's campaign, but the political fallout it was continuous, and it's going to continue all day today and in the foreseeable future. And this is what I find strange about all of this. First off, it's not James's position to say anything like this publicly. I think that if that is indeed the case, then he says that to a prosecutor behind the scenes. We don't need to know about this public because it's not up to him. All right? But this is the other thing. The FBI and the Republicans have been after her on this case forever. And they've been trying, and Benghazi, been trying. I'm not a Hillary supporter. Okay? I'm just a fairness supporter. They've been coming after her. And if there was something there, no matter how small, they would have moved on it. And they can't find it. Just let it go. I am fully confused, like anybody else, why the Secretary of State would be allowed to have a private email server. We have government secrets. We have things. We have, and there are too many hackers and people out there that want to go and get at stuff like this. And just having a private email server is just a bad idea. You use a government email service, and that's it. How that was allowed to continue. But is that against the law? No. Is she wrong for doing it? 100%. It's not anything that you can be convicted of. I think you should be fired as Secretary of State. I'm fully backing that move. But anything else, no. Just let it go. Now, when I come back, I'm going to have Victor here. But have you heard this story about Ashley Madison? I'm really going to flip you out. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Email jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Follow me on Twitter @JChurchRadio. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Victor Viggiani and the NORAD document disclosure on the Game Changer Network and KGRA, The Planet. I'll be right back.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
Fade to Black will now pause for alien identification.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio. What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National Tax Experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. Doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here reminding you that June is Health Awareness Month, sponsored by GetTheT.com. Many of you have heard our tea commercial, maybe visited the website, but haven't committed because, well, you just don't know. Skeptical. We understand. Just to remind you, our tea is not just tea. In fact, very little tea. Life Change Tea is a unique blend of 8 different herbs, removing intruders that attack your health. You brew our tea to make the concentrate, you add water, and put in the fridge. 2 8-ounce glasses a day, and life will be good. Visit us at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. And this month is lots of fun stuff with Health Awareness Month. You could be picked and receive your order absolutely free. You never know. Read the testimonies and try our products. Log on to GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. And for great health tips, visit my YouTube channel at Health Matters Now, where you can learn about health tips and how products work on your body. Join me, GetTheT.com.
9 out of 10 geneticists agree.
Fade to Black is not your father's radio show on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, The Planet.
Hi, this is Chase Klutsky with Fate Magazine Radio, and you're listening to Jimmy Church and Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA digital broadcast station, where the Fader-Knots rock.
Hi, this is Rob Reiner from Anvil, and you're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com.
What's up? I'm Chris. What up? This is Kyle Massey, and you're listening to Jimmy Church Radio.
All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. Tomorrow night, Joshua P. Warren is going to be here. We're going to talk all things paranormal and this video that he's got posted on his website and his book, of course, Using the Force and the Laws of Attraction. But tonight, it's all about Victor Viggiani. He is a Canadian UFO disclosure advocate, and he challenges the United States government to indict him. At the first Canadian national inquiry into UFOs up in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, this past Saturday, June 25th, stunning news came out concerning the inquiry's findings. And in a very bold move of defiance to dare the United States government to charge him, I think it's awesome, by the way, Victor quoted from a NORAD document, and the document said, "Any distribution of this kind of information threatens national security and violates the Espionage Act of the United States," end quote. He made public several secret files from ZNN's runic archive of NORAD, proving that the phenomenon itself of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, have been, and I'm quoting here, discussed, analyzed, assessed, sequestered at the highest levels of governance and military authority on the planet. And I would like to welcome one courageous man, Victor Viggiani. Victor, welcome to Fade to Black, sir.
Great to be with you, Jimmy.
No, it's great to have you here, man. And
Yeah.
I got to say, Victor, when one steps up, we're going to get to some stuff that we have to get out of the way in the beginning. But let me just say, when one steps up and says, "Okay, I'm here, come and get me," you know, that's pretty bold. You know, that's because you are. It's the biggest man of the man, right? You know, you're taking on the man, and when you make that kind of statement, what has their response been?
Well, so far, I guess you could say nothing in terms of the way I stated the demand. And it's well timed, Jimmy, that someone say something like this, and I'm really serious about it, because we've been, as up here in Canada, we have a term, it's called ragging the puck in hockey. When you play the game of hockey, you get into a position where you really don't know how to go forward with advancing the puck and advancing it to the other person's goal line. And you got to take your time, and you sort of, you be very patient. We call that ragging the puck. You're not really doing anything. But at a certain point, you have to make the pass. You have to make the initiative to go forward and attack the goal, and make a very bold statement about what you want to do. So we're no longer in a position here in Canada to rag the puck. We have to make some very bold statements about the kind of demands that are absolutely necessary to challenge the United States government to come forward about how they've been so duplicitous and deceptive about their approach to the whole UFO, unidentified aerial phenomena question. So I took it upon myself to look at all the documents that I'd been sent and sort of assess them and put them forward as evidence that the United States government has in fact made a very clear statement that this phenomenon is real. And we have the documentation. There's absolutely no question about that. So the purpose in me challenging the U.S. government was based on a letter that I received from NORAD at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado, indicating to me, as a result of my FOIA request, the Freedom of Information request, that any possession or distribution of information regarding tracks of interest, TOIs, or unknown tracks was a violation of the United States security laws as well as their espionage laws. So I have in my possession these documents, and I was in no uncertain terms challenged by the fact that if I distributed this information, that I would be in violation of these particular national security acts. So I had no alternative, because I had distributed this information quite clearly on my website and in many news broadcasts and other ways that I distribute the information throughout Canada and the United States to media, that I was, in fact, as I perceived it, in violation of this distribution situation that they restricted me to. So it was quite clear that I did have the information, I did distribute it. So in my interpretation, I was in violation of these national security acts. So let's get this out in public. If I'm in fact in violation of it, charge me with it, and then we can get it all out in open court and discuss the matter, so that everybody can find out exactly how duplicitous the American government has been in the way they've handled this UFO issue.
With I want to get deep into the NORAD documents, because I've looked them over, and pretty bone-chilling stuff, actually. And it's rare that you see something like this with so much real information in it. And so I want to pick these apart in a second.
Sure.
But before we get to that, I want there's one thing that fascinates me, and I talk about it a lot on this show. We have a huge Canadian audience, right? Love Canada. Love it. And I love all things Canada. But on the same side of the coin, I say this: what the hell is going on up there when it comes to UFOs, UAPs, and the phenomena that is up there? Because the population isn't anywhere near. It's 1/10 of what the United States is. The country is bigger, and it's spread out. But yet, last year you had the most sightings that you've had in a very long time, which means there's more action going on in the skies. You have less people to report them. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
yet
exactly.
It's there's something going on in Canada. What's going on?
Well, it's quite clear that the National UFO report is put out by the University of Manitoba, Chris Rutkowski and Jeff Dittman. They do an annual report, and they did indicate that this year, especially in Ontario and Quebec, UFO sightings were way up, over 1,200.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a considerable amount of data that brought it forward, and so there is something going on in terms of what Canadians are seeing and what they're reporting. So that kind of reflects the part of the document that I received from the NORAD command in Colorado from from the NORAD commander, and he indicated the authorization to release information. And I'll state right from the document complete. I'll quote it verbatim for you. It says the NORAD commander has approved the release of the following information regarding tracks of interest, TOIs, or unknown tracks. The yearly average in the past 5 years has been 1,800 tracks of interest and 75 intercepts over the past 5 years on an average. And this is the NORAD commander actually transmitting this information to me directly. This is not a letter that he published to the general press or to everyone on the internet. He sent this letter. They sent this letter to me directly, indicating that 1,800 on an average per year over the last 5 years, Jimmy, with 75 intercepts. So what does that mean?
75 intercepts is enough right there. Just that line is enough to freak somebody out. I mean,
exactly.
What does that mean?
Well, there's no explanation after that. That's the last paragraph in the letter that they sent me. And I suppose they're sort of almost titillating us to interpret that as we would. You and I call these things UFOs or unidentified aerial phenomena, whatever you want to call it. They call it tracks of interest. So the question in my mind is that they still have yet to clarify. And this is why I went forward to say to them, challenge me on my documentation, challenge me on the information that I have. And let's sort this out in a court of law. If you want to challenge me on this, indict me so that we can sit before a judge in any court anywhere in the United States. I don't care. Extradite me. It doesn't matter to me. And we can sit there and talk about what do 75 intercepts mean? What is being intercepted? What is being seen? What is being shot at? What is being, captured? Who knows what the interpretation of that is? All I want, Jimmy, is to get this information out and ask the question, why is NORAD stating that over 5 years, an average of 1,800 tracks of interest are being tracked by their radar? And in fact, some of which, when we don't know the number exactly, of jets that are chasing these things. And then we move on to the document that I have that indicates that 2 CF-18 jets up here in Canada, NORAD jets, chased 3 tracks, unknown tracks, over Comox Air Force Base at 35,000 feet. And within the document, it actually states in 2 lines, 90 seconds to target. The next line reads, contact made at 35,000 feet. And there is no other way for me to interpret that. And I've gone over documents all of my career in this, and there's only one thing that means. They saw something, and they're not talking about it.
Yeah, I'm reading. I mean, there's so much information here, but
it's a lot of it.
Yeah, the CF-18s are going back to sanitize the area.
Exactly.
What does
that mean?
Well, I mean, some of this stuff, and back on F-18s are back on sanitizing mission as of 12/29. I mean, it's some of the verbiage is crazy.
It is, yeah. Have you seen the one of the lines in one of the document pages is a medical evacuation jet, an LR-35, a Learjet 35, point of departure Anchorage, Alaska. This medical evacuation jet later in the document says that they caught sight of these, and 2 of them dropped off, and 1 of them continued on at 35,000 feet. And this means that these, not only do these tracks of interest, these UFOs or whatever you want to call them, not only were they flying in straight and level flight. That's an avionics terminology for an aircraft of some kind or a craft of some kind that's moving in straight and level flight, flying straight, not going down, not going up,
right,
but moving in straight and level flight. This medical evacuation jet actually stated that they saw these things, and they said we could not keep up with them.
Crazy.
And if you read the document carefully, and which most journalists will just look at, no, it's just too much for me to handle. They
right.
don't want to look at it with the kind of circumspect acuity that you and I might look at it. So if they ask the question, well, what are they chasing? What are they seeing? And why could they not keep up with them? What are these craft? And none of these questions are ever asked about about these kind of documents. So it's open. It's not open to interpretation. It's quite clear what these jets actually did and what they saw.
It says right here, back to the original point, time to target for CF-18s is 90 seconds.
90 seconds.
The very next message, CF-18s have made contact at 350 degrees. And then it says there's a handwritten note right next to that says, contact made.
That's right.
Dude.
Man. You know, you have to ask the question, you know, how did the people back at NORAD Command interpret what happened with these CF-18s? And then after that, my big question is when these jets returned and they landed at Comox Air Force Base in British Columbia up here in Canada, what kind of debriefing did these pilots go through in order to assess what they did and what they saw? And then after that, were there any gun camera film taken of this whole event?
And you know there was. Of course there was. And there's all the radars recorded too as well, and all the heads-up displays are recorded.
Exactly.
And also, there's one important point here that needs to be made. 75 intercepts. That's 75 reports. 75 debriefings from pilots after they landed. Where is all that documentation?
Well, I think what would happen after we get into all the information about that, which I have not done as yet because I only received this document in December, and I've, in putting together our hearing, I've been very busy in terms of, trying to get all this information together. I think my next move might be filing another, what we call up here, access to information request, which is the same as your FOIA request in the States, and say, please, give me all of the information regarding the 75 intercepts per year over the past. What were the intercepts of? And what was your determination of them? And do you have, gun camera film of this? And do you have reports on radar about this? And that kind of clarification needs to be made about it. Now, on the other side of that coin is, as they state in the letter to me, and it says here that any report or distribution or transmission of this information of unknown tracks is in violation of the Espionage Act and National Security Act. So they're talking out of both sides of their mouth here. They're giving me the information, but yet on the other hand, they're saying that this information shall not be transmitted or revealed to any unauthorized persons. So where does that leave me?
Well, I'm going to ask you this: could have the release of these documents to you been an accident, a mistake?
Actually, it's an excellent question, because when I got the original documents, Jimmy, I looked at there was about 117 pages of everything, all kinds of UFO reports and pretty mundane stuff. Uncle Albert and Auntie Sarah sitting back on the porch in Saskatchewan, and they see a bright light. They make a report of it, and it goes to the RCMP, and nothing happens. So there was about 117 pages of those kinds of reports. And then after I ferreted through all of this stuff, I got to the document that we're just talking about right now, the CF-18 document, plus the other documents that the RCMP stuff. And I said to myself, my goodness, why are they releasing this stuff to me? And I thought that this one particular one that we're discussing right now, in terms of the flight log from Comox Air Force Base, there was only one. I requested everything. I requested all reports of scrambled jets. I only got one. My first impression, Jimmy, was exactly what you just said. Why did they give me just one? And did some clerk make a mistake and say, well, let's give him this one. Let's just throw him this bone.
Right.
Or let's just put it in there in the hopper and just hope he doesn't really make anything of it. My assessment, to be really honest with you, is they made a mistake in giving this to me. I really believe that. Now, I have no substantial reason to believe that was in fact the case, but why would they release something of that nature? And then a document says we've made contact at 35,000 feet.
Right.
That to me is indescribably either inefficient or incompetent on their part. So they may, in fact, Jimmy, may have made a mistake in releasing that to me.
What did I know that Richard Dolan looked at these documents, and he's a very pragmatic, smart guy. He's a black and white guy. And he's in color, but he's somebody that I would depend on with analysis, because I look at this, I can pick stuff out of it. You know what I mean? But you need somebody with a little bit of, the neurons that are firing in the brain correctly. Mine don't. Right. What did he get out of this?
Well, in discussions with Richard, we talked about this after I received the documents and at the hearing. He said, "Victor, you've got something there." That was his assessment. We've got something here, something that he'd never seen before. And to have Richard say something like that and say you've got something there, and after the fact when I made the statement at the hearing that I challenged the U.S. government to indict me, he said, well, you have every grounds to do that because what you've got is grounds for indictment, but then would they take you on in terms of doing something like that and actually expose? And if they did, they would automatically expose the issue in terms of media coverage, and Canadian is charged with indictment on UFO issue. I mean, they'd be opening up a can of worms they could never close. So when you get someone like that saying, Victor, you've got something there, to me, it means that, we've rung a bell that really no one wants to listen to, but I think we've rung it loud enough that we've challenged people to say, listen, there's something going on here that we have to address. So that's why I did what I did. I know I took a risk. I know I took a bit of a flyer on this in terms of, putting myself out there, but the United States government has been so deceptive about this. It's time that someone take them to task about it. And we've ragged the puck for far, far too long. And I sort of said, well, I've got nothing to lose. I mean, it's something that we have to do. We've really been under this sort of gun for so long, and the government has been so deceptive. I think it's incumbent upon us to really bring this forward in a very intrusive and bold way, and that's why I did what I did.
The documents themselves, where they have, I haven't posted these yet. Do I have your permission to post these?
As far as and wide as you want, Jimmy.
Okay, all right. So during the break, everybody, just relax. I'll get it up on Twitter, and I'll post what Victor has sent to me. But in these, I see a couple of interesting things that stand out. Number one, these are not complete. These are also edited and redacted.
That's right. And
the stuff that is there looks to me like it should have been redacted.
Of course,
so doesn't it just make you just flip out and wonder if this is the stuff that is in here? What was it that they've edited and redacted?
That really is a puzzle to me, because if you look at the first couple of pages, they go on 10 or 15 lines, and the next, I guess 1, 2, 3 that I'm counting right, the next 4 lines are taken out. And the next line reads, no indication that there were any aircraft in the area. And then they go on, they redact the next 3 lines. So what in fact are they redacting, and why didn't they redact the statement, why QQ CF-18s have contact at 35,000 feet? I mean, that would have been an automatic line to redact, but they didn't. And that makes me think even more about the issue you raised earlier, is that some clerk or some person in the Access to Information Department in the Canadian Defense Ministry just missed that. Like, they just missed the ball. They said, we don't need to get that out there. We don't need to have that stated. And they missed redacting it. So I think that gives more evidence or credence to the fact that they released this document in a rather cavalier manner. They said, well, let's just throw it out. They're not going to make anything of it anyways because they're not all that bright. I think they missed the boat on that, because I am bright enough to read through documents, because I have my, I fly. I've gone through flight training, so I know some of the verbiage that pilots use. So I was very circumspect in reading through this thing line by line and knowing which lines meant nothing and which lines meant something very, very specific. But to the untrained eye, it would mean nothing.
Right.
And that's why I think part of this wasn't understood by Canadian media and other media. So they missed the boat. And I think it's up to people like you and I to point out the salient parts of this whole document to make them understand that, my goodness, NORAD is chasing UFOs. There's no other conclusion that we can come to, Jimmy, as far as I'm concerned.
There's not. And now, also the other point I wanted to make is the codes that they use here. Are you able to break down some of these codes, CYOD-COC, leaving, the codes that are in each line? Because they mean, to somebody that's reading this document that knows the codes, this is just like reading a book. It's no big deal.
That's right.
Have you been able to, do you have access to that?
Not really. I've asked, I don't have access, I don't know personally any military pilots who can actually translate this information for me, because it's just not something that's easily done. A regular private pilot, the people that I'm involved with, I've asked them about it, and they really can't ferret through this information because it's so codified. Because I mean, you read a line that says, CANTRI to S2.
I'm reading that now. Yes,
it's ridiculous.
Right.
I mean, I don't know what it means. What it could mean is these are just automatic computer transmissions in code, and then when the pilot actually says something to the air traffic controller, like target is in descent at 25,000 feet or to Whidbey Island. That's regular verbiage, but the next couple of lines will read like it's basically gobbledygook. You can't make any sense of it. So it's like when NASA, communicates with one of their shuttles. They've got certain things that are in code, and other things are in actual regular language, and you have to really kind of decide what you read in terms of regular language and what is actual code. And I suppose that's part of the frustration.
What I'm gonna do is I've got a couple of fighter pilot buddies of mine that I'm gonna have them look at this. And one of them, Steve Murillo, you may know Steve. I might be able to actually get him on the line here. I'll reach out to him during the break, and we can go over some of this information, because this is exactly what he, what he would have been trained on. And there's one line in here. We're going to head to a break in 30 seconds.
Sure.
There's one line in here that I think is absolutely awesome. F-18s have 1 hour playtime.
Right.
What? And the line before that is, YQQ, that's the base, right?
That's right.
F-18s are back on the sanitizing mission, right? And then they have 1 hour playtime.
Right.
That is crazy.
Crazy.
This is some of the best stuff I have looked over in a very long time. Let's go ahead and take a break here, and then when we come back, we'll continue to analyze these documents. We'll take a look at the letter too as well. That's interesting too, the letter. And all of this that we're looking at here is 2012. By the way, I'm going to announce that to the audience. And so this is 2012, but you have a letter from November 68. Is that correct? That's what I'm reading here.
Which letter is that? Which one?
From Regina.
Oh, from the
Ottawa
UFO found, the RCMP. Yes. We can go over that in a few minutes if you wish. That's a stunning document.
That's a stunning document. Thank you for sending that to me. And we are now officially in a break. Our guest tonight, Victor Viggiani, is here. We're talking about his NORAD document disclosure that went down on June 25th up in Brantford, Ontario. We'll also talk about the big event he just had up there with Dolan and Paul Hellyer and the rest of the crew. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. We'll be right back.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
The station that talks the net. KGRA Radio.
Hello, I'm Katie, and you're listening to my main man, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Hi, this is Ray Hobbs here, repping the planet, and you're listening to my good friend, Jimmy Church, Fade to Black, on the Game Changer Network and the KGRA Digital Broadcast Station. Foodforliberty.com sells high-quality, storable foods from Numana. And right now, take advantage of our summer special. Purchase 2 family packs and we'll send you a Pro Pure Water Pitcher, a $70 value, free. This premium pitcher is ideal for use with just about any water source and removes more contaminants than other brands. And it comes with a filter that lasts up to 2 full years. Whether you need to be prepared in the event of an emergency or an outdoor sports enthusiast, Numana is known for high-quality, great-tasting, GMO-free, super nutritious food with no chemical preservatives. And with a 25-year shelf life, you can't beat the feeling of being food secure when you need it most. Go to foodforliberty.com right now for great-tasting, high-quality, storable foods from Numana. Buy 2 family packs and get the Pro Pure Water Pitcher free. It makes good sense to be prepared. Get it at foodforliberty.com.
Imagine no longer being tied down to your computer, but having the freedom to take live talk radio with you anywhere you go. TalkStream Live introduces our first ever iPhone application. The talk shows you follow now follow you, and your iPhone is now the fastest and easiest way to stay connected to the best talk radio on the internet. Let TalkStream Live transform the way you listen to radio. Listen to live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mobile talk radio from TalkStream Live. Now available in the iTunes App Store.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Well,
yes.
We are of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to JimmyChurchRadio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Tepe.
This is Micah Hanks of the Gralien Report, and you're listening to Jimmy Church on Fade to Black, across the globe on the Game Changer Radio Network and the one and only KGRA Radio, The Planet.
All right. Welcome back to Fade to Black, Bespoke Radio on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. You can follow me on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. You can follow Victor Viggiani at Zland_. And we've got everything up on Twitter right now. Email is jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. And any questions or comments during the show, just use hashtag F2BQ. All right. So, Victor, before we get back into the documents, I've got the 2 scrambled docs posted up on Twitter, so everybody's got that. And we'll get back to those. Let me see here. Would making an FOI in effect my path to citizenship in the USA? That's interesting. Somebody just said if you were in Canada, right, and you're making a Freedom of Information Act request in the United States,
would that affect your citizenship application? When all of this stuff was going down with Trump a couple of months ago, you probably heard the number one search term in Google at that point was like Canadian citizenship from the United States, right? Housing prices in Canada, right? And this is, I actually, I spent an evening with my wife searching in Vancouver for housing prices, and then I went and I looked through the process to citizenship in Canada. I wanted to know what the hype was that the media was talking about, and I got to tell you, man, you guys make it rough. You guys don't make it easy to become a Canadian citizen. I mean, yeah, and we're talking about, closing our borders here and making it, tough, because pretty much United States, you can just walk in and do your thing and there's nobody that's going to stop you. It ain't that kind of party in Canada, is it?
No, you're right. I'm not quite sure what the actual immigration laws are, but I think we're pretty careful. Actually, Australia and New Zealand have very similar kinds of the citizenship requirements, and I guess it's all part of the way immigration has gone over the last several years. I recall way back in the Trudeau administration, where they literally opened up the borders to all kinds of the influx of immigrants and so on. But I think we've become a little bit more circumspect about how we sort of vet people who want to come into our country, and especially with the way things have gone over the past 8 to 10 years with respect to international terrorism and all that. There's some pretty strict regulations that have come into place about how we let people into the country and actually become citizens. So I think it's a good thing. I think it's something that we need to be very careful about. And with respect to opening our borders, you just can't sort of do something that allows your whole society to become exposed to whoever wants to come in. So I think you have to kind of be a good gatekeeper and allow good people who want to come into our country to become citizens and sort of be very circumspect about who we allow in.
A couple of things that stuck out, if my memory, I did this last month. If you've got a DUI on your record, you're done. That's it.
You're finished. Pretty much finished.
You cannot become a Canadian citizen. But you guys almost invented beer, so go figure that out. And but here in the United States, you could be the head of a Colombian cocaine cartel, and it's like, come on in. Come on in. We love you guys. It's just totally bizarre. I mean, Canada does not play around. But and they also stress there's a couple of things that they put in. Look, becoming a Canadian citizen is a privilege. We welcome you. College, health care, all of this is listed, right? And one of the things that they stated, they said, now, when you become a Canadian citizen, you need to continue your health care for about 3 months from wherever you're coming in from until we get you set up in the system here. But after that, it's all good. Literally, that's the verbiage.
That's right.
So they, I know it's great once you get there. But getting to that point is a little bit rough, and you
got to prove yourself. Exactly.
Yeah, and there was one other thing. If you've got any issues, whatever those issues are, we'll put you through a program. We'll put you into detox. We'll put you into a program, and we'll get you. There are plenty of government programs in here, and then after you graduate the programs, then we'll grant you citizenship. So they'll give you a temporary situation to go there, and then you just go to school. It's bizarre. Yeah. It's bizarre. Okay, enough of that. Yeah, I actually did a lot of reading on it
that's great.
When everything was kicking off. Okay, where was I? Oh, back to your presentation that you guys did back on the 25th. How did that go? I know that you did a very aggressive press release on it. You invited all of the media And how did it go? How was the attendance, and how were the presentations?
Well, first of all, the overall attendance at the hearing. I should tell your listeners that the name that we attached to the whole situation was the first Canadian National Inquiry into UFOs, and what it was essentially was gathering 7 of the top UFO experts on the planet. That everything from Paul Hellyer, Grant Cameron, Steve Bassett, Richard Dolan, Stanton Friedman. We had Travis Walton there. 7 of the top. Nick Pope. I know all these people personally. I've interviewed them myself and been at conferences with them. And so I asked them to be part of this inquiry. So we set up that panel of these 7 expert witnesses. And so we put them as part of our expert witness panel. And opposite them, we gathered 5 international Canadian journalists who were skeptical, sort of doubting Thomases, I guess you'd say, but open-minded enough to entertain the possibility of throwing really good questions to challenge the veracity and the integrity of the witness testimony that each of these 7 people put forward. So I didn't want any journalists on the panel who were sort of dyed-in-the-wool, committed UFO, advocates. I didn't want that. I wanted people who doubted everything, who really did not buy the whole situation, so that they could be in a position of throwing really good questions at this panel of witnesses. And that's exactly how it turned out, Jimmy. We had each witness gave a 7 to 10 minute sort of deposition or position statement, and then following each of the deposition statements, the journalists threw questions at the expert to test the veracity of what they were what they were advocating. And let me tell you, the questions that these journalists threw, and not only just were they journalists, we had one PhD candidate up there throwing questions at the panel. The questions were absolutely incredible in challenging the information. Why do you believe this? Where do you get your information from? What reports do you have? What kind of credibility? What kind of evidence do you have? And that went on from 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, June the 25th, to about 12:30 in the afternoon, with just relentless testimony and good questions. And I think the media really got sort of, they kind of went through an OD situation with all of this information, being thrown at them all at once. And most of them found it almost too much to digest, because these experts, as you know well, you know all these people that came forward, Nick Pope and
Sure.
Richard Dolan, and you know the quality of what they've written about, the quality of testimony that they could present. And these journalists, never having heard this before,
right.
I didn't brief them at all. I didn't give them any information at all about what the testimony would be. So they were hit with all this information sort of, at one time, and they could not believe what they were hearing. You could see them shaking their heads on the panel. I just can't believe this. But eventually, after the fact, they realized that these people were putting forward information over 40 years of research that was indescribably authentic, and they could not deal with it in any other way to at least understand what these people were doing and to recognize the authenticity of what they were saying. And that's the key point that I want to make, is that they eventually came to the point to say there is something to this issue that we cannot ignore.
Do you feel a little guilty for unleashing Stephen Bassett on them?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh,
and
man.
For those of you who know Stephen, and we made him the last person. We made him the last witness. And let me tell you, Jimmy, he presented his 10 minutes. I said, Steve, you got to keep it to 10 minutes.
Right.
And Steve and I, you know the way Steve tends to be. He will go on, but he did restrict himself, and he gave the most powerful statement I have ever heard him make. And I know Steve quite well. I've listened to his presentations. I've interviewed him on the radio, and he gave the most provocative statement that challenged the witnesses to question even the most diverse amount of information, both politically and in terms of the research that you and I are familiar with. So,
right.
He was great. He was absolutely fantastic in the way he framed the whole issue politically.
You actually got him to stop at 10 minutes.
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
Well, Richard Serrett, you know Richard.
Yes.
He the host of the conspiracy show up here in Toronto. I asked Richard to be the moderator, and Richard watched the clock, as a good radio person does.
Right.
And he kept everybody on track to their 7 to 10 minutes. So that's how we allowed everyone, their fair time to give their testimony. And Steve was very good in the way he set up his testimony and the way he summed everything up, both in terms of research and in terms of the political reality of what was really going on. I think that's the one thing that the journalists really did not comprehend completely, is the political nature of what this is, what's going on. They figured it was just lights in the sky and,
right.
Funny little things going on, with jets and all that kind of stuff. This was a political analysis on his part of what was really going on in terms of the election with Hillary Clinton and all the other things that have gone on in the past with the Rockefeller Initiative and all of that. So he framed it really, really well.
And what about Paul Hellyer? Were the journalists familiar with Paul and his position? His position within the government, but his position on UFOs and UAPs.
Yeah, what I did do, and I sort of went out of my way to acquaint them with Paul, not only because of the way he had stated things in the past in terms of his familiarity with the whole UFO issue. I made it very clear to have them look at his record politically and how he was totally detached from this issue as a former Minister of Defense up here in Canada, because he was quite clear in his statement back in 2005 that as the defense minister, these things crossed his desk. All of these reports crossed his desk. He read them, but he did not think anything of them at the time. This is back in the late 60s and early 70s when he was the Minister of Defense up here in Canada and member of cabinet. And he did not think anything of it at the time. He didn't take it seriously, and he admitted that fully. And he said that many, many times. But then as he grew to understand what the issue really, really meant later on in the late 90s when he read The Day After Roswell by Philip J. Corso, he began to realize that he missed the boat. He really did not consider these things properly when they came across his desk. So it's really interesting to hear the journalist's perception of what he went through as Minister of Defense and essentially ignoring these things, and then 40 years later coming to grips with the fact that these things were real. So that's a real turnaround for someone like Paul Hellyer, and the way these journalists interpret how he realizes this issue is totally authentic now, and the way he kind of dismissed it when he was a cabinet minister.
Yeah, it's a definite situation where we, and I'm sure Paul wishes we had a time machine, because, and I'm not, being facetious, if he would definitely have handled things completely different, and he was in a position to go deeper if he wanted to. But, here we are, coulda, woulda, shoulda. But exactly, I know that he probably really regrets dismissing stuff in the past, because think of the position that he was in, right? He was the guy. And it was right there, right in front of him. And just like so many people that are in his position, they just move on and they dismiss it.
They just, and the thing too is the current ministers of defense, the Honorable Peter MacKay, who I wrote, and then eventually I wrote Rob Nichols, who was another defense minister here in Canada. These are all recent letters that I challenged them on, and I asked Minister MacKay, defense minister, I said, could you please explain this report that I got, the one that you and I have been discussing? And I asked him 10 questions on it. This is about 6 or 7 months after I received the documents, after that I'd analyzed them, and I sent 10 questions to Minister MacKay. I said, Minister MacKay, have jets been scrambled? What do you know about this? He sent me back a letter directly to me that I will be publicizing quite soon on my next press release, and he explained that, first of all, Jimmy, he admitted to me in the letter that he could not find the document that I had in my own possession.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, I'm not. I will publish this very, very soon. I have it right here in front of me, that he could not locate that document. Now, what is going on? in the Ministry of Defense up here, the Department of National Defense up here, where the Minister of Defense cannot find a NORAD document. So that's number one. And then he went through other situations about, we've scrambled jets to look at anomalous things that are in the sky. He went on and on. But in the last paragraph, and I get this, he said the only way that we can interpret this information is that these UAPs, or not UAPs, but these TOIs and tracks of interest, whatever you want to call them, are either small aircraft with non-functioning transponders, which means a small aircraft like a Cessna 172, which I fly.
Right.
And these don't fly at 35,000 feet. They can't. They're either one of those things with a missing transponder, or, and get this, Jimmy, a flock of birds. the statement is in there, and I will be publishing this at 30. Now, I don't know of any ornithoid that can fly at 35,000 feet, nevertheless outpace a CF-18.
Yeah, and see that I wanted to bring that point up. This is the MEDVAC, the LR-35, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would venture to guess that craft at cruising speed is in excess of 500 miles an hour. Okay? And so that's that. We all know what an F-18 can do. It hauls. So if they are chasing something down and it's outpacing the LR-35, right, and you have to, and it can't catch up to it. And by the way, I'm looking at the MEDVAC page right here, and it says in the notes at the top, 3 UFOs, right? With a star next to it, no less, right? So, and I'm just thinking logically here. Okay, so the MEDVAC plane cannot catch up to it. The F-18s do and intercept, right? These are not birds. These are not civilian aircraft. These are something that are doing in excess of 500 or 600 miles an hour and above. That you're chasing it down with an F-18. That's crazy. And there's one other telling thing about this document. They never clarify or identify or resolve the situation. They don't say, we caught up with the plane. It was a Russian aircraft intercepted, in our airspace. It was an F-16 from the United States. It was this. It was that. Nothing is resolved here.
Exactly. You make a very good point, because that's either it's either not resolved at all, or if you read through the document, it's just redacted. That's the question that's in my mind, is when everything went through, everything washes out, and the last line comes, and these craft move back. They land back at Comox Air Force Base in British Columbia. What happened at the briefing? And I would love to file a Freedom of Information request up here in Canada to ask what the results of the briefing was on this document, and how many others were very similar to this, because it's quite clear this was the only document that they gave me. But my understanding is that these things are scrambled on a frequent basis. This is only one of maybe hundreds, ostensibly. What would you want to call it? Flight logs of the CF-18s chasing these things. So I only got one. I asked for all of them. They only sent me one.
I think it was an accident. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the threat, in there.
Yeah.
Now, there's another point here, and it just got away from me. Oh, what was don't you hate that? That's the beauty of live radio, right?
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean.
And the point I wanted to make was, I'm going to have to wait during the break.
Okay.
I don't know where was I going? I was going somewhere.
Yeah.
Is this? Do you feel? And please be straight with me. Be honest.
Sure.
Now that you have these documents, are you in the position of feeling a little bit cocky in that you can write the current Minister of Defense in Canada going, okay, now here's the document. I want to know this, and this. Are you approaching it from another mindset? Because if you didn't have these documents, you're going to play soft. You know,
Right.
you don't want to be but now you don't have to play soft. You come from a different position.
Exactly.
Do you feel a little bit cocky now?
Well, yes, because on a number of fronts, Jimmy, that's a really good point. On a number of fronts, not only do I feel confident, I'll use the word confident, that I'm going in the right direction here, is because I want the Ministry of Defense up here, the Department of Defense up here in Canada, to explain themselves. What does this document really mean? And not only this particular flight log document, what does it mean in terms of the relationship of the next letter that I received from the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD? What does that mean in terms with respect to the 1,800 tracks of interest and 75 intercepts? You cannot speak about one without introducing the other. Do you see what I'm getting at?
I do.
They're not mutually exclusive. They are in tandem with one another. So when you talk about 1,800 tracks of interest and 75 intercepts, and then you intermingle the one flight log that you and I have been discussing over the past 45 minutes to an hour, you can't look at them as two separate issues. They're both entwined. So what I need to know, and that's why I feel confident in saying, give me the rest of the goods. Give us the rest of the goods here. Don't be so deceptive and duplicitous about what you're giving me. You're not just throwing me a bone here. We're not stupid people. We are intelligent, very, very concerned individuals about this issue. So don't hand us this crap. Give us the whole goods here. Don't be vague in your assessment of this. Don't use language that we can't understand. We want the goods here. So I feel very confident in the fact that I've got this letter from NORAD, with a veiled threat of being charged with espionage or whatever the heck you might want to call it, and then I've got a document where it says these CF-18s are chasing these things and a medical evacuation jet. Like, give me the whole story here. Don't be deceptive, and that's a sort of a testament to the way the lies have gone on through the last 45 to 50 years about this. So I'm looking for authentic information here, Jimmy. Not, let's not sort of, give me veiled threats about what I can and can't do. We want the goods here, and we want journalists to understand what's really going on. And that's why I brought this hearing together, this inquiry, to say, look, you as journalists have to get your act together here and ask the right questions. The Richard Dolans of the world, the Paul Helliers of the world, the Steve Batts, Nick Popes of the world, they are asking good questions. Why are you not paying attention to people who've researched this thing over 40 years and you're dismissing them as idiots? And this is totally untenable, unauthentic, and it's part of the whole deceptive nature of how the American government and in terms of the Canadian government in tandem have handled this issue. They think we're stupid, Jimmy, and I think there's a time to call them on this completely and say, look, the time is up. Give us the goods on this and stop the obfuscation. It's just an absolutely untenable situation.
So I'm looking at this. I've got to hit a break. I'm going to look at this a little bit closer, and I'm going to do some other stuff tomorrow. But you know what? I'm thinking that the number chain, the 131.13, that is a latitude and longitude position of probably a radar station. And you're looking at the times there that are stamped, 11:56, 11:57,
Right, yep.
And those are the locations. And you would be able to map this out and figure out the direction and also the speed, because you're looking at the timestamps on one side and you can see the location on the other.
Exactly.
I'm guessing here. I'm not a pilot, but I can't wait to get a pilot to look at this. Our guest tonight, Victor Viggiani. We're talking about his NORAD disclosure documents. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network and KGRA The Planet. More with Victor right after this short break. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
Always on the edge of the hottest alternative talk. Jimmy Church with Fade to Black. KGRAradio.com.
Mis amigos, yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Poor water quality is a major health issue, and it's only getting worse. Municipalities can't keep up, standards have dropped, and pollutants are increasing. Where does it all end? It ends by keeping the pollutants outside of your home with HydroCare's advanced systems available at Wave Home Solutions. No less than the best purification materials and processes have been developed by HydroCare to provide you with healthy, clean water for drinking, cooking, and showering. HydroCare far surpasses the competition in removing chlorine, odors, iron, lead, chemicals, limescale, and much more. Don't settle for less when it comes to your water. We'll take care of the toughest water problems for you, whether it's from a city or well source. Satisfaction guaranteed. For more information, call 888-997-WAVE. That's 888-997-WAVE. Or go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
Did you ever turn to your radio for your favorite talk show to find that it's been preempted for this?
In the air to deep right center. Back goes Lewis to the wall, and it's out of here!
Or this?
And I'm ashamed of you, Hillary, for voting for it.
Do you have a favorite talk radio program that's not available in your city? Just go to TalkStreamLive.com for links to the best streaming talk radio shows. At TalkStream Live, you will find live talk shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All your favorites are here. With such a large selection, you will also discover some new favorites. On the go and still want to listen? With the mobile smartphone, simply type TalkStream Live on your internet browser. Now you can take internet radio with you. You will also find hundreds of music, news, and sports streams. Best of all, the TalkStream Live directory is free and there's never a login required. Remember TalkStreamLive.com, the fastest route between you and your favorite talk radio show.
You are listening to Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Network.
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
Welcome back, Fade to Black. Our guest tonight, Victor Viggiani, Canadian researcher. I am poring over these documents right now, everybody. I just posted the letter. Okay, I didn't have enough time there in Twitter because, you know, I've got one hand right now. But I got it up, and this is the letter that we're going to discuss now. Victor, what's telling to me in this is it's Regina, right? 14th of November, 68.
Oh, you're talking about the RCMP document now?
Yes, the RCMP.
Okay, yep.
And the reason why I find this interesting, because believe it or not, I've been to Regina, okay? Now, I've been there. Great little town, right? Mm-hmm. And in the middle of nowhere, by the way, right? Almost smack dab in the middle of Canada, I guess. Mm-hmm. Pretty close. Just north of the Canadian border with the United States. And it also, I think, didn't it used to be wasn't it that like the regional government center for that part of Canada, and then it switched to Saskatoon? Am I right?
That's right, exactly. Yeah, you're
See,
exactly
I know my
right.
I know my Canadian history.
Good for you. That's
Yeah.
very good for. Yes.
Well, you know why I know that. When I stayed in Regina, we stayed at this hotel, and we pull up to it. And I'm like, man, this place looks like a castle, right? And that's when they told me, well, this used to be, the Saskatchewan state government building. And so I got the whole rundown, from the people that worked at the hotel. And so anyway, that's why I know that. I'm not a walking pillar of Canadian knowledge, but I don't forget what I learned.
You're doing pretty good.
And so I love Regina. Regina's great, and it's in a very unique spot. But this letter, I'm going to let you go over it yourself. Where did it come from? It's RCMP. Mm-hmm. And who wrote it, and what was the intention? Because the title of it says UFO found in northern Saskatchewan. That's right. Okay.
And I think your listeners need to understand that where I got this from, and I think it was back in 2010, and I literally tripped over, and there's no other word to describe it. I went to the Canadian Archives, the Library and Archives Canada, and that's where all of the different documents about veteran affairs and Transport Canada and every document, or most of the documents that Canada has, they house it at this place called Library and Archives Canada. So you type that in and you can find out what World War city and Juno and how the attack in World War II was handled by certain U.S. whatever it happens to be. So you can find all these documents. So what I did was I typed in an acronym UFO, and I came up with 9,500 UFO documents from the RCMP, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, the Ministry of Transport, which is a very powerful department of the Canadian government. Transport Canada covers all the flight information and the kinds of things, but almost like your FAA in the States, is that kind of thing.
Right.
And so I poured over these documents, at 9,500 files on UFOs. I said, look, how can I get to all of that? So I just started reading, clicking on all these documents one by one, and literally it was like reading the telephone book, Jimmy, like as boring as you could ever imagine. They just, they talked about UFO sightings. As I said earlier, Uncle Frank and Aunt Martha sitting on the porch in Saskatchewan and seeing a light and making a report on it. It went on and on with very little really specific information, but that all of a sudden I get a document like A.G. Langley saying that we will discuss if a UFO makes a landing on Canadian soil, what will we do? And it says right there in the document, we need to discuss this. If a UFO attempts to land on Canadian soil, what shall we do? So the fact of the matter is, and you began the whole interview this evening by saying that this has been discussed at the highest level of governance. The Canadian government discussed this way back in the 1950s and 60s. So it was quite clear that they were very interested in all of this. And then after that, I came across probably, I would think, Jimmy, 7 or 8 key documents. And I only got through maybe, 3,000 of these documents.
Oh, man. Your eyes were just, eyes were burning.
Oh, I can't tell you how boring it was. But the fact of the matter, it's like shucking oysters. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
You shuck 100 oysters and you come up with one pearl.
It's kind of like doing this show.
Yes, exactly. I know where you're coming from.
But
so
this,
I guess, yeah.
Okay,
so I ran into this document here that from in 1968. The Commissioner, Ottawa, UFO found in northern Saskatchewan, and it reads, Regina Crime Detection Laboratory found an unnamed pilot in the Woolston Lake area of Saskatchewan, roughly 450 miles northeast of Prince Albert, near Manitoba border. Examination revealed the exhibit had likely formed part of a vehicle that traveled in outer space. Interested federal and provincial authorities are aware of the kind and of its understood. Mr. Hodges conveyed their personal material understanding of the National Research Council of Ottawa. I'm attaching a copy of this and to be examined by the medical fragment reports. So, I mean, what do you make of that? I mean, you can only deal with the historical nature of this in the context of when it was written. They didn't know what they had. They had no idea about it. So all we are left with, Jimmy, is a remnant of history, and we have to interpret it right now as to what it might have been back then. And all we can say is a vehicle that traveled in outer space back in 1960. That's all we're left with. We can make as many speculations about it as we want, but the fact of the matter is the Canadian government stated that a UFO was found. So where do you go with that? What do you do with that kind of information? How do you interpret it? Do you challenge the government and say, please explain yourself on this? And so what might they say? What rationale would they give to you and me right now as to how they would interpret this document? And that's what the media has to deal with. And here's where I flip this over to journalists. Good journalists, the Panama, money scandal that's going on right now with the offshore kind of money. Journalists have gone to the nth degree to find out who is doing this, how much money is involved, where it's coming from, how many countries are involved, and the kind of specificity that they're dealing with this whole Panama, money transfer and offshore kind of thing. If they apply the same kind of journalistic investigation to this issue as they do with the Panama Papers, what would they come up with? But they refuse to do it. They refuse to look at the kinds of documents that you and I are talking about right now, to look at what the American government and the Canadian government and the UK government have done over the past 40 years in investigating this whole issue. And I challenge the journalistic community to look at these documents, to come up with the answers that they come up with in terms of Watergate. Look at Watergate.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
Now, what about the you have a couple of document codes on this.
Right.
Is it possible to go forward and backward off of this letter? Because this is in response to, right? It's it's RE in response to the UFO found in northern Saskatchewan. So there was something written before this. And then what about chasing down what was after this? Were you able to do any of that?
Well, the particular document in question, the RCMP document, I have not done anything with it. I really haven't. I must admit that because, if you, I could spend literally every single waking hour, going after, proof the documentation is real and number one, and then sort of chasing it through. But it takes just so much time, Jimmy, and the government and the people within our Freedom of Information Department. They're so slow in responding to everything that you ask for them. And they ask for clarification again and again and again. It's almost like there's a system of delay in progress to allow you to get at the information. So you could literally spend every single waking day chasing down this information. And to be quite honest with you, I just don't have the time to do it. And that's why I say to these people in journalism right now, to the really good people that do investigations about everything, from vaccinations to the kinds of things that go on with the terrorism. They have the capacity to investigate this stuff with a circumspect way of investigation. Why would they not use the same tools of investigation to look at this stuff? And I don't have all those tools. I have to admit that I don't have the time to do it, and I don't have the skills to do it. And it's very, very difficult to get journalists who are worth anything in terms of their capacity to look at this stuff to say, look, you've got to look at this information. I can't do it all. We can't do it all. So that's why I'm challenging journalists to really kind of look at this information. And I guess I could do it if I spent every single waking hour, of my existence to do it. But I literally don't have the time to do it. It's very difficult.
I'm
you
totally.
You know where I'm coming from?
Of course I do. Of course I do. There, these document numbers are right there. I have enough Canadian friends up there that we can put together the force and see what we can do, because obviously, like I said, this is in response to. So there was something, and the other telling part about this letter is it doesn't say that it's a piece of rock or a piece of debris or a piece of that. No, they say metal.
That's right.
So clearly that's what this was. They sent it off to a lab to have it analyzed. Where's that analysis? You know, where did it go from there? Who found the UFO? Why was it classified as a UFO? I mean, you know, you don't classify a metal fragment as a UFO. It came from something bigger. And where's the rest of the investigation? This is a great document.
I think it's a very key document. And you, right now, Jimmy, you are asking the questions that a good journalist at the Toronto Star or the Globe and Mail up here in Canada, who's a national newspaper, or the Toronto Sun, or any of our good newspapers up in Canada, the questions you've just asked are the ones that good journalists need to throw at our government, and they just don't have the courage to address it. And that's, I mean, someone like myself, you know, I could ask them that question. They just toss it off as, well, just another nutbar who wants information on UFOs, you know, that kind of thing. But if good journalists read this document and used the same probative instincts that they would use in terms of any other
murder investigation, money laundering, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. The gamut is as long as it is wide. Why do they not use the same skills to attack this issue as the ones that you just mentioned? That completely confuses me as to why these people do not use the same. Are they being told not to? Are they being directed to say, well, no, you know what, it's just, you know, saucer head material. Let these people, you know, kind of rag on about UFOs and let's just sort of let them have their day and not really pay attention to it. But if they really understood the implications of the whole issue in terms of the geopolitical nature and the national security issues that are involved with this, with these craft coming and going with impunity within our airspace, I think they may, if a good editor at some good newspaper or television station here up in Canada, they could deal with it. I know they could, but they just don't have the courage to attack the issue.
I want to discuss the NORAD letter to you next, but before we get to that, and I've read through this a couple of times, that's one of the most frightening letters one can receive, and we're going to go over that. But where did this interest for you, what turned you into a pit bull? You know, what happened? Did you have a sighting that you couldn't explain?
No, not really, no. What started me off on it, Jimmy, that's a good question. I read a book by Jacques Vallée back in 1975 called Revelations, and it was I didn't really have an interest in it beforehand. I always sort of thought about these kinds of things, you know, in terms of us being alone in the universe and all of that. But when I read this book by Jacques Vallée called Revelations, and he had a very different approach to it. And it fascinated me as to how he perceived who these beings might be and where their craft might come from and the nature of the craft and everything. And I sort of asked myself the question, like, what's going on here? Is there something more to this? And so I began to realize that as I did an investigation of the UFO situation and, you know, taking UFO reports and all of that, I began to realize that this wasn't about lights in the sky. That was an important part about it. It really was. But I began to realize that this was a political issue, that in some way, shape, or form, governmental agencies had the story on this, and we weren't receiving the goods on it. And I'm talking about back in 1980 for me, okay, that kind of thing. And I began to realize that this was a political issue, and then I realized that we were, in fact, being lied to. Government silence, and we're being lied to. And I've always believed, and I guess this is part of my sort of, activist, subversive nature, I can call it what you want, but I've always believed, and this is a line from Stephen Bassett's an editorial that he wrote, what he said, Jimmy, and this is really instructive, and I need your listeners to listen to this very carefully, that constitutionally, governments have always been given the right to keep secrets, but they've never been given the right to lie to their people. And that's the essence of this issue. We've been lied to. You know, keep secrets, fine. Okay, I can buy that. But don't lie to us. You are our elected representatives. You are the government, but you shall not and cannot and may not lie to us about these kinds of things. And that's how I kind of got involved in it, because I began to realize that our government is not only keeping secrets, but they're lying to us about this. And as an educator, with children over the last 40 years of my career. You cannot have a situation where people in charge of knowledge keep that information and they lie to you about it. That's an untenable situation for me. I cannot deal with, within my own DNA, Jimmy, I cannot handle government officials lying to us. It's an untenable situation. So you have to attack that from that point of view, and that's what I've done. And you asked the question, how and why? That's why. Because government shall not lie to me.
I thought Canadians were above that. I thought you guys had a special government up there. And
well, in a sense, we do, and that's why I'm sort of putting this information out right now, because I think, and I believe that if we approach our Canadian government with this information in the way that we have it with this hearing, I think that we will be able to at least get their attention. As far as I'm concerned, Jimmy, it's a lost cause in the United States. I really believe that. I mean, other than the fact that Hillary has brought this information forward, and that her and Podesta are going to try to, reveal UFO files. I mean, it's a great angle for them to take. I understand the nature of their inquiry, but I think that the intransigent and the monolithic nature of the American system will not allow anyone to chip at the information. But I think up here in Canada, we have an opportunity with our journalists and our government that's a lot more amorphous than it is down in the States, that we have an opportunity up here to get at our government and say, listen, here's the issue. Let's look at it in a cooperative, consensual way. And I think that there may be the opportunity up here with the new Trudeau government. I'm not sure if your listeners are familiar with Justin Trudeau's.
We like him. He used to smoke weed. So
yeah.
I'm making fun of it, but I think he's actually a pretty hip guy. I do.
He is. Yeah. He's a young kid. He's only like 44 years old.
I know. He looks like he's 20.
And he's really smooth.
Yeah.
He is super smooth. And I'm not saying that he's the be-all and the end-all of, truth and reality, but at least he may be, and he has stated the rhetoric that his government needs to be transparent. So what we're trying to do is say, I'm going to call into question your own individual persona and your advancement of the idea of transparency. How transparent will you be? Will you be transparent enough to entertain any kind of discourse about this? And that's what my next step is with Justin Trudeau and with the people that we have the hearing. Will they be able to deal with their own rhetoric in terms of transparency, to look at this issue in an open way, to say, let's talk about this in a mature, open way? And is, in fact, your government open to a dialogue about this? So that's our next move, and that's our next step up here in Canada. So it's a big step, but I think we need to take it in the context of where we are in the Canadian theater, because we have the opportunity to do that.
I think I want to go back and before we hit the break and go back to your point about Jacques Vallée. I think I don't know, okay, but I think that Jacques knows something, and I think that he has been put in a position to stay quiet. That's my own personal belief. He went so far out on the theory behind it that was so different than the rest of us were, looking at it. And it felt like to me that he had information. He knew something, and he knows something. And he has since then, for the last 20, almost 30 years, slowed down, to the point of almost pumping the brakes on everything. And also, there's another point, man. Look at Jacques' eyes. You look at his eyes. I think he's an alien. I just think I think Jacques is not of this earth.
Okay,
but
I know where you're going with that argument, and I really do understand what you're saying, and I completely agree with you that the way he articulated his first inclinations about what this issue might have been way back when I read his first book. I'm convinced that he may not be an alien. I don't know if I can go that far.
Right.
I'm convinced that this man has been plugged in since day one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You look at his eyes and you listen to him speak, and you just look at him. He knows something. You know, there's something shifty. I'm not saying he's shifty. I'm saying he's shifty-ish. He's got something in his back pocket. And
you're right. You're exactly right. I'm convinced of it. And perhaps that's why I latched onto his book the way I did. And I read that book. I read that book 3 times. I read it once. I said, okay. Thank you very much, Jacques. I think I see, and I had to read it twice more to completely understand perhaps where he was going with the whole issue. And then listening to him talk on YouTube and some of his lectures, I began to believe that he knows something beyond what most researchers, even today, even our best researchers today, know beyond what this issue is. How he got that information, where he got it from, I have no idea at all. But I think I completely agree with you that he's plugged into a different level of understanding of what this issue is. And where he got it from, I have no idea.
Do you think that Trudeau, because I think the Canadian government, I could be completely wrong here, and I don't want a bunch of email coming in saying that I'm an idiot when it comes to governments. They're all in on this together, Jimmy. You know, Canada is no different than anybody else, and Canada and the United States are joined at the hip, and they drink from the same cups. And that may be true, but I feel that the Canadian government, this is my gut feeling, is much more approachable. You know, is honest the right word? I don't know, but I think you can get to Trudeau. You know, it's a smaller government, and it's in more contact with its citizens, and I think they're more approachable. You can't go and have direct access to Obama. It ain't going to happen.
No.
And Hillary, as much as my glass is half full, Victor, and I always think positive, and I appreciate the things that her and Podesta are talking about. I really do, but I don't trust her as far as I can throw her.
I agree.
So that's I just don't see that going. I think she's saying everything for votes. She wants the UFO vote, if you ask me. But Trudeau, I really think that the government up there in Trudeau is approachable and at least open to a discussion.
No, I completely agree with you. They are when they got elected, because you have to think back to the Harper government, the Conservative government that was here before Trudeau. They were probably the most Bush-like administration that we've had up here in Canada for 2 or 3 decades, and we've had some excellent governments up here, and we've been very, very fortunate up here in Canada to have some really, really good, even under Brian Mulroney as a conservative. As much as I disagreed with his policies and everything, at least they were open. They weren't secretive to the point of shutting down government the way the Congress is right now. You know, your Congress right now has become inert.
Yeah,
they
completely.
Are totally ineffectual.
Yes,
okay?
yeah, no doubt.
That has never happened up here in Canada. And the way our parliamentary system is set up, there's a good chance that it will never happen, that we become an inert government. There's always a dynamic, responsive, democratic kind of feel to our government. And it's not perfect. Don't get me wrong. It's not perfect, but at least it's approachable. And if I write a letter to my Minister of Defense or to my Member of Parliament, I get a response. I get a good response. I get an acknowledgement, and which is a very positive way of interpreting the new government under Justin Trudeau. Their level of transparency. They want to be transparent. Now, how far will they go with that transparency? Is there a limit? Are they being controlled by the United States in terms of foreign policy, et cetera, et cetera? Those are questions that remain to be seen.
Well, let me jump in. We got to take a network break here, Victor. Let's do that now. Our guest tonight, Victor Viggiani. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black. We'll be right back.
Hi, everybody. This is Rob Halford, the Metal Guard on JimmyChurchRadio.com.
KGRA Radio. Intelligent talk.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Are you tired of brown rust stains on your toilets, sinks, and clothes? Does your water smell and taste bad? Don't live with these problems anymore. Hydrocare's revolutionary well water systems, available at Wave Home Solutions, gives you clean, healthy, great-tasting water from every faucet. They remove iron, hydrogen sulfides, sediment, and many other contaminants that are distasteful and damaging your fixtures. You'll be amazed how fresh and clean well water can be. Satisfaction guaranteed. Go to bestwater123.com. That's bestwater123.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi, I'm Richard Dolan. When I'm not hosting my radio program, The Richard Dolan Show on KGRA, or writing new books on UFOs, I run a publishing company. I'm proud to say that Richard Dolan Press has published some of the most fascinating books available on UFOs and related subjects. They include Dr. Bruce Maccabee's classic analysis of the UFO cover-up, David Marler's breakthrough book on triangular UFOs, Dr. Richard Sauter's unique work on underground bases, and other classics by Grant Cameron, Chase Kletsky, and Dr. Bob Wood, not to mention intriguing works by Eve Lorgan and Laurie MacDonald that deal with truly bizarre phenomena. I'm proud to publish such high-quality and original works, and there are several amazing books about to be released over the next few months. Go to richarddolanpress.com to learn more.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of Fade to Black by just calling 605-562-4482. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Just call 605-562-4482. You can listen to me, Jimmy Church, on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Go Beckley Teppy.
You want to know a secret? I love ponies. I really love ponies. I'm serious. I couldn't stay sane without ponies to brush.
Why Fade to Black? Because you never got that pony, damn it.
This is Fade to Black with Jimmy Church on the Game Changer Radio Network and KGRA, the Global Radio Alliance.
Welcome back to Fade to Black. I was just hanging out in the Spreaker chat room. Those kids over there are out of their minds. Love this audience. Love all of you. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Our guest tonight, Victor Viggiani, is here. We're talking about his NORAD disclosure documents that he went through and revealed up in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, this past Saturday, June 25th. And it's an amazing conversation that we're having tonight. But more so, Victor, than all of that is the NORAD letter that you got in response. Now, I'm going to let you go over this. You mentioned it a little bit, but I'm going to say this to everybody. I'm reading the letter here, and the last paragraph says, however, right?
However,
yeah.
Yes.
However, the NORAD commander has approved the release of the following information regarding tracks of interest, TOI, and unknown tracks. The yearly average in the past 5 years has been 1,800 TOIs and 75 intercepts. Man, oh man. I mean, and for them to put that in a letter, in a document, I you know what? I don't even know what the intention is. Why even say that? Why open up the can of worms unless you're ready for some inquiry, some questions, some response? But also, it's like they are what's the word? Teasing, right?
Mm-hmm.
After when you got tell me, be straight with me, Victor. You get this letter and you read down, right? And you're reading and you're like, wow, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
Well, let me tell you something. I got the letter in a regular envelope, okay, and it was back in December of 2015. You know, you get the mail to your mailbox, and you go through, you get your bills, and you get your this, and it says, letter from North American Air Defense, and I open it up and I read it, and I said, okay, a subject is ATI 2014, A94,
right?
All this kind of legalese, documentation stuff, and I read through, and then I'd look at the whole thing about improper authorization, disclosure of the information. I think, what are they telling me? I've got these documents, and they're telling me that I can't distribute them, and the Espionage Act and National Security Act. That's enough of a blast in the head to say, what are they telling me, that I can't distribute this, and if I do, I'm guilty of espionage? I mean, that's what, you're sitting there having breakfast and a cup of coffee, and you open your mail, and these people are telling you that, and then you read the last paragraph. It says 1,000, 1,800 TOIs and 75. I mean, what are they saying here?
It's an amazing letter.
I could not believe what was going on, and then. I put the letter down and I sort of, what does this really, really mean? And I've called NORAD before, and I must admit this to your listeners. I've actually made contact with NORAD and U.S. Air Force officials before, with talking about this whole issue, and they're very, we get these things all the time, and we don't understand what they are, and I've yet to really understand where I need to go with challenging this last paragraph that you just cited, Jimmy. That, okay, what does this mean? 1,800 TOIs and 75 intercepts. I need you to describe exactly what you're talking about. So do they have the capacity to really delineate what they said in that last paragraph? And do they have the courage to really admit what's going on? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. Is it the answer that you and I are looking for in terms of that? Are they couching this in language? Or they say, well, you know what, there's really something going on here, but we just really can't talk about it.
Well, and the tone of this, the overall tone of this is threatening, number one. Mm-hmm. And it is not, this is not a generic letter that they just send out to anybody that's requesting stuff, right?
Absolutely not. Exactly.
This was a custom written letter to you. That's
right.
And
exactly.
and now you touched upon this, but I want everybody to hear this from me. I will read this in its entirety. Mm-hmm. Not the letter, but the second to last paragraph, which says, the requests for table of tracts of interest, TOI, are classified, unclassified, or for official use only, FOUO. It is to be controlled, stored, handled, transmitted, distributed, and disposed of in accordance with Department of Defense policy referring to FOUO information, and is not to be released to the public in, I'm trying to see here, the media, that's me, so there you go, you're definitely going to jail, right? And other personnel who do not have a valid need to know without prior approval of an authorized NORAD official. Exemption 15 also applies for this case. Dude, I mean, holy crap.
You've exactly articulated the nature of what was confronted with me when I opened this letter. I could not, Jimmy, believe what I was reading. I really could not. I said, what are they trying to tell me here?
And what this other line, Victor, this information is property of NORAD, but yet they sent it to you.
Exactly. That's the conundrum that I'm faced with here.
Oh, man.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
See, and when you read through this, look, the press releases that you had done on all of this saying, you know what, okay, well, I did this, come and get me. You need to read through these documents and the letter. I'm talking about the public and the press to understand why you took the position that you did, because they are calling your bluff here.
They are, and I thank you for articulating it in the way you are, Jimmy, because it's exactly what goes through my mind when I'm confronted with a journalist who needs to understand what's really going on here. And you've really you've asked the right questions. You've asked the same kind of things that I've been asking all the time, so that if journalists are listening to our conversation right now, and anyone in the national security agencies within the United States who are obviously listening to our conversation right now, they need to understand that NORAD has sent this document to me specifically, and that I've been challenged to make a decision as to whether or not to make the statement that I did back on June 25th.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I need to make that kind of statement because I'm being dealt with in a duplicitous manner here. I need to come forward and say, you've made this statement. I'm challenging you to go forward with understanding where we all need to go with this. You don't want to challenge me on this issue and then say nothing about it after the fact. So why have you written this letter to me? Is this a bait?
Right.
What is it? What are you telling me here?
It's funny. You mentioned there is a duality, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. And also, I'm going to announce to the audience here right now, Victor agreed with me to continue to stir the hornet's nest. And we're going to take this to coast this Saturday. And so we're definitely kicking it up a notch. This program is big enough. And we're going to take it one step further, and we're going to go full on and stir the hornet's nest on Saturday night. and
to be really honest with you, my friend, I don't see we have any other alternative here.
Right.
We cannot let this letter sit and not be reviewed at the ultimate form of mainstream media. We have to bring this letter forward. And ask the general public to make a determination, to ask journalists to make a determination of what NORAD is exactly saying here. That's why I did what I did. Why is NORAD saying to me what they are saying? Is this like a big fake move here? Is it a veiled threat? Is it a specific threat? What are they saying to me? And I want this to become public domain knowledge. We have to get this kind of information out. Is this a threat to me? Is it in fact a threat? That's the way I interpret it, Jim.
It's pretty hardcore. I mean, it's written like I said. It's a very direct, intimidating letter attached to official documents. That's the thing. It's like you here's a gun. Go in and rob the bank. But no, don't. Oh, no, go ahead. No, if you do, here's the gun, there's the bank, there's the money. Now, if you go in and rob the bank, we may do something about it. But go ahead and rob the bank. That's what it's like. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And you're right. Your metaphor is wonderful. I love it. And you've articulated it very well. So, I mean, that's the position I think people need to understand that I'm at right now. And I really sweated over doing what I did at the hearing.
I would have
making the statement. I really did, Jimmy. I really sweated over it. And I during the whole testimony, and when I brought it up, when Richard Serrett gave me the opportunity to articulate this whole thing, when I had the documents there, I really sweated. Victor, do I really need to do this? And I came to the conclusion that if we don't resolve this issue in some way, if we don't hit this thing broadside, it's never going to come out in public. It's going to be just one of those other things that never gets articulated, this never gets dealt with. So I needed to hit it broadside. I needed to. I mean, in my own personal being, and I'm a teacher. That's what I am. I'm an educator. And when you confront learners, people in the public with things that they don't know, and you provide them with provocative information that they don't understand, they look at you like, "Are you really serious? This is damn serious stuff here." And if you choose to ignore it, you ignore it at your own risk, because, especially in a journalistic way, you are part of the cover-up if you do not take this information, examine it, and deal with it at the level of authenticity that it's worth. And that's what I say to journalists right now. I'm appealing to all journalists to look at this information and say, we need to talk about this, we need to bring it forward, and not be afraid to advance this to your editors, to your publishers, to say, this is something really, really big, folks. And if we miss this boat, we miss the boat for good. And it's not something you can just ignore.
The guy that you have in your back pocket, and I'm talking about Grant Cameron, one of the great FOI guys, out there, period. And he's a friend of yours, and of course he's even Canadian. Mm-hmm. What did he say when he saw this letter? Has he ever had any verbiage like this sent back to him, and was he able to look at some of the wording on it, like this Article 15 or whatever? What's that
I
statement?
spoke to Grant about it, to some degree, and it's the same with Richard, and he said the same sort of things. So you've really got, you've got something here. This is something that I've never received before. A lot of the documentation that he's received is specific to the presidential knowledge of all this, which his documentation is impeccable. But this is the first time that he saw this kind of information from NORAD. And he said, you've got something here. This is something that we need to pursue. And on top of that, what I think he could do, I mean, this is something that he's really good at. And I'm not as a person. He knows the Freedom of Information Act in the United States backwards and forwards. So he could ostensibly get this document and put it forward into the American system. This is only within the Canadian system, as far as I'm concerned, with how I asked for it. Grant could take this forward even more with his research skills. So we've yet to really approach the issue on this, and I'm not quite sure where Grant could take it, where he wants to take it, but I think he has the skills to really go at, especially that last paragraph that we stated about 1,800 tracks of interest with 75 intercepts. That's something that I think he could really kind of get his teeth into and really kind of examine with the kind of specificity that he has in terms of his skills.
Yeah, it feels more and more like an accident, that they and the reason why, I want everybody to understand that my stance on this. The reason why I say it's an accident, because they keep going back to like this line here, right in the middle of everything. It says, additionally, the release of any details regarding unknown track reports and TOIs would affect the national defense of the United States and Canada, and the improper or unauthorized disclosure of this information is an offense under the Security of Information Act. It also contains information affecting the national defense of the United States within the meaning of the espionage laws, US Code, Title 18, Section 709 and 704. I mean, it's just, it's mind blowing, man.
It is absolutely mind blowing, and that's what really struck me, Jimmy. As I read it that morning, and I talked to you about it a few minutes ago. When I opened the envelope and I read it, it took me like 5 or 6 reads of the letter. I read it once. I said, yeah, okay. Read it again. What are they saying to me here? What are they really saying? And I came to the conclusion that this is a veiled threat.
The law prohibits the transmission or revelation of information contained in any records of unknown track reports in any manner to an unauthorized person. What did they expect for you to do? Just sit on it? Put it under your pillow and never discuss it with anybody ever again?
I love the way you're analyzing this, because I needed someone else to articulate exactly how I felt about it, and you're doing exactly that, Jimmy, because basically, essentially, I've been alone in this. When I hear your voice articulating the same kinds of emotional responses that I had to this, I feel vindicated. I mean, I'm glad you're stating it in the way you are, because it is in fact exactly the way you stated. Like, what am I expected to do with this? Do I sit there and hide it under my pillow? I mean, you don't do that. And in fact, and I need your listeners to understand that over the past 5 or 6 years, I have distributed this information to every single media outlet here in Canada, and I've got a massive database of media in the United States, and I've passed this along to every single one of them. Now, they don't take it seriously, or they don't really kind of investigate it, but I have distributed it. I have sent it out to every single media outlet in Canada. So, in fact, I mean, the way I interpret it is I'm guilty under the acts that they're citing.
Yeah, you certainly are.
I mean, that's the only thing that I can. I've got to call into my to my lawyer. I called him. I've been away for the past 3 days in Boston. We went away to kind of enjoy ourselves, and I put a call into my lawyer about this. And I'm going to be talking to him tomorrow morning about an assessment. And I need your listeners to understand that back in 2006 or 2007, I wrote an affidavit to my lawyer indicating to him that should anything happen to me regarding this issue, with respect to being threats given to me and everything, he has an affidavit that I have sent to him that he's to go public with my concerns about this. So I am on file with my solicitor to make sure that anything that does happen to me, if anything does, that he's to go public with information as a solicitor up here in Canada to expose what I've been through and how I've been threatened about this. So I'm very clear with my solicitor that this is something that I will not have any kind of requiring information to say that, well, nothing really happened to me. My solicitor has all this information, and if anything does happen to me or any member of my family, he has my consent to go public with what I've been through and how I've been threatened and how I've been sort of accosted on this issue with respect to this particular letter. So I've covered all the bases on this, Jimmy, and it sort of attests to the fact that I'm very, very serious about this, as you are, and how you've articulated and helped me articulate my concern that this needs to come forward in the most careful and professional manner possible, not as a matter of sensationalism. That's not what I'm after. I'm not after that at all. I'm just after the truth so that people can understand that they've been lied to and that our governments have been duplicitous in informing us about what's really going on here. So I think we've covered all the bases on this, but my only concern is this particular letter that you're articulating right now that we're describing has been sort of how can I put it? It's been misinterpreted in a lot of ways, or denied, or at least kind of glossed over. Maybe that's the best word. It's been glossed over, and there's something that the media needs to pay attention to here that they may be missing.
Yeah, it's I mean, combined with the information in the tracking reports, right? And the tracking reports are obviously stamped secret. They're edited, they're redacted, they've got references to UFOs, these sanitizing missions and everything else that is referenced here. It's pretty nuts what is in the tracking documents. And then you combine that with this letter, and this is obviously something that should not be out there in the public. We love it out here in the public. But as from a NORAD standpoint, from a government standpoint, is this the information you really want out there in the streets? Because this is what you are saying hasn't been going on, right? So now we have it, and the documents are real. Obviously, there's one other thing that I want to point out to the audience. And I hope you have this framed and up on the wall, because right at the top it literally says, from NORAD operations 250 Vandenberg Street, right? Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado. And it's about as official from a source inside of NORAD as you can get. It's beyond the point of denial.
Right. I mean, that's exactly you've made the point, Jimmy, and that's what really has kind of not confused me, has really kind of, hit me squarely in the head. That, I mean, they've given us the goods here, but they really have. They've given us the goods. They've given us the whole thing here. They're saying that this stuff shall not be released, but you've got it and you shall not release it. So I just don't know where to go with it.
Well, are you prepared? Are you prepared to be a martyr?
You know what? That's a really, really good question. Yeah, the short answer is yes. Let's just suppose, I mean, we've got a few minutes here to talk about this. Let's suppose they do indict me. I mean, I don't think they've got the courage to do that, but let's suppose they did, and I'm in front of a court of law, and they've charged me. I'll go wherever they want me to go. I don't have a
prison food sucks.
Sorry?
Prison food sucks.
And the orange jumpers don't fit very
no,
well.
they don't. But I mean, are you prepared? I mean, if they call your bluff, you call their bluff, which is exactly what has happened here. Mm-hmm. Are you prepared for that?
You know what? I've been involved with this for so long, and it's within my DNA. It really is. I'm totally prepared to do it. And if it comes to a court of law, I mean, I know I've got my solicitors, support on this. And what I will do, I've told this to my wife and to my two best friends on this issue. If I'm called forward, if I'm charged in a court of law, I will sit there and say, Your Honor, I have 16,000 documents that I want read into the record. And I have a correspondent here who will begin to read all of the documents that I'm going to put forward. Can I begin the reading of it right now? And it's going to take 16,000 documents for us to read into the record as evidence. Your Honor, shall I proceed? He or she will have no other recourse to identify and open those documents, and I'll read every single bloody document into the record, and they're going to have to deal with it, Jimmy. They're going to have to deal with it.
You're a courageous guy.
That's what I'm prepared to do. And I will do that. That's in fact what I will do. And so, I mean, that's the level of commitment that I have to this. And let them make the judgment on that. Because as soon as we go forward with this issue in a court of law, if that's the way they want to go, then the whole issue will just explode onto the surface, even better than the Wikipedia leaks or whatever. It'll be the same kind of thing. Not that I want that kind of notoriety. I don't really want that. But in fact, if a court of law allows me to read those kinds of documentation into the record, I will spend weeks reading it with a news correspondent that I have. I've got a news correspondent who is prepared to sit and read 16,000 documents into the record, and they're going to have to deal with those records.
Well, and the other thing, and I want to thank you in advance before we wind this down. We've got about 60 seconds. Mm-hmm. Is no matter what, once you peel back that first layer of the onion, then the government will be forced into revealing classified information, which they won't do. They would be forced into calling witnesses and to defend their position. And the next thing you know, they're going to have to pull in some kind of national security issues, and they can't move forward, and the case won't move forward. Right. I mean, because what other choice do they have?
Exactly.
So interesting. Victor, you're a courageous man, and I can't wait to take this to the next step this Saturday on Coast to Coast AM. In the meantime, keep sleeping with one eye open, and I need you on Saturday, okay?
I'll be there, man.
Thank you so much. Victor Viggiani. Thank you so much, Victor. Great conversation tonight, my friend.
Take care now.
We'll see you in a couple of days.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you go. It's some of the most amazing things that I have read, not in a long time, as in ever. And I want to thank Victor for absolutely coming forward. And you guys have got everything out there. And we've posted a couple of other tidbits. Go and have some interesting reading. This is Fade to Black. I'll be back taking your phone calls next. 323-825-5045. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Thank you, Victor Viggiani. Amazing. I'll be right back.
Hey, what up, y'all? It's your girl Vivica Fox here, and you are listening to my boy, Jimmy Church, on jimmychurchradio.com.
Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
Does your basement or crawl space have a damp, musty smell? Well, watch out. That's a sign of too much moisture and not enough ventilation. And that can mean increased mold growth and the buildup of harmful toxins and gases. Don't bother with a dehumidifier. It just circulates the same unhealthy air. Now there's a better way to remove these dangers and odors. It's with the computerized Wave Moisture Control Unit that reduces moisture and expels pollutants.
We replaced our old dehumidifier with the Wave unit, and in only 3 weeks, our basement is dry and the musty smell is gone.
Wave units require no maintenance, no buckets of water or filters, and costs only pennies a day to run. Breathe better, live healthier with an affordable, no-maintenance Wave unit. Call 888-618-WAVE, 888-618-WAVE, or visit mydryhome.com. mydryhome.com.
Ride the wave. Wave Home Solutions for a healthy, comfortable home.
What's up, Fadernauts? Studio Dome loves Fade to Black and the F2B audience so much that they have put together the ultimate stereo Bluetooth system. They've done it just for you. Man, check this out. The Studio Dome SBB2 stereo system is here. It's featuring 2 Studio Boombox 2 SBB2 wireless Bluetooth speakers, packed in its own custom hardshell case. This Studio Dome system features the very latest in stereo Bluetooth technology. The 2 full-range boomboxes are in true wireless stereo. You've got to hear this. It's amazing. It's just $129, and use the promo code JCRTWS, and you'll also get free shipping. It's simple. Just go to jimmychurchradio.com, click on the Studio Dome banner. Go Beckley Teppy.
It's not a lifestyle we chose. We were born this way. KGRAradio.com.
This is KJCR at jimmychurchradio.com.
Wow. Victor Viggiani. 323-825-5045. I want to hear from you. Are these the most amazing documents ever? Have you guys read through them? What do you think? Are we getting close? Something like this, when we talk about disclosure and what it could mean, yes, it has been run in the ground. It's an overused term. It is something that it will be debated forever. You know, disclosure will never happen. Disclosure is going to be this month. No, it'll never. I mean, it is a polarizing argument, and I understand that. But you read something like this. You go back to Timothy Good's books, Above Top Secret. Right, and which I still have, and those books freaked me out. These documents go beyond that. You know, this is a bit different, and this letter and these documents. We're talking about December 2015. This is brand new, and you read that NORAD letter, and it is as harsh as it is, and as direct as it is. It's tied to documents that are clearly stating they were chasing UFOs, and they're doing 1,800 a year on average over the last 5 years, and they've had 75 intercepts? What does that even mean? And they're talking about UFOs. So we're on to something here. And I do want to hear from you. 323-825-5045. And first up out of the gate, wouldn't you know it? What's up, Dino?
Hey, Jimmy, this is a very compelling show. I mean, I'm still digesting these documents, but Godspeed Victor, he is taking on something in a different way than Snowden has done it. That letter that he received, it seems like it's open-ended for a reason, and, you know, that they could get him if they want to get him. But again, Canada, you know, we in the chat room, we figure everything out every night, and we have a couple of lawyers in here, and they're saying depends on Canadian law how much it's like American law. But what comes to mind is what Stephen Greer and some other people have said, that they claim that there are dark people in the military and elsewhere who want this type of stuff released, and they are fighting with those that want to keep the secret. So what does this say about these documents coming out now?
Well, but okay, Snowden is different. Snowden was a CIA operative and was, you know, sent into the NSA to go and pull the stuff out. I mean, that guy's just a complete shill. And now, what he did and how he did it and all of that, that's a totally different situation. Nobody inside the NSA mailed Snowden an envelope and said, here you go. He took it. Okay, so that's a bit different. And he worked for the CIA. You know, are we appreciative of what Snowden did? You know what? Whatever. I don't think he's any kind of hero. But he did what he did. And the information that he revealed is stuff that all it did was verify what we already knew. Okay, there was no revelations in the Snowden stuff. And anybody out there that thinks any different, you're wrong. And you can send me all the email that you want telling me that I don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, plain and simply, yeah, he worked for the CIA and somehow magically, without a degree of anything, winds up working for the NSA. It was all a setup from the word go. All right, so that's that. So the comparisons to Snowden in this situation are nil. This information was mailed to Victor from NORAD with a letter tied to it threatening that you can't release this stuff. Why mail it to him if you know, like I said to Victor, they expected him to what? You know, put it in his kitchen cabinet and hide it in a box of cereal until he died. You know, here's some entertaining reading for you, Victor, but you can't reveal it, which is what that letter says. It doesn't make any sense. The contents of these TOI reports are some of the most fascinating reading and it's the real stuff. This was sent from NORAD. You know, this is a totally different situation than anything else that I've seen before.
Well, excuse me, Jimmy. I haven't seen all the documents. Are they redacted with tons of black lines through them, like a lot of the American stuff that we got a few years ago?
It's with whiteout.
Is there more? Are they whiting out more than the documents we've seen already?
It says right here. I'll give you an example, Dino. Right here, okay? It says in pencil, it looks like, it says there's an arrow, there's a white space, and you can see some of the writing that a trail of it. So it's like whiteout, okay? And then they've written over the whiteout. So you can see it says section 15.1, and then there's a handwritten paragraph bar in the blank spot, right? And it says here, and this is what it says: 1.5 something ago, something a.m. It says what happened with a question mark, and that's written over the redacted part. And then over to the right of that, there's an arrow, and it says edited info. So each section, that's 15.1, and then it says it again, 15.1, it says edited info. It's a blank spot. But you can see some black spots there where You know, it's like whiteout. That's you know, it's not blackout. It's whiteout.
But what about the quantity of whiteout compared to documents we've seen in the past?
I would say, well, it's different on every page, but I'm going to say, looking at this, it's about, and that's what's really curious here. I'm going to say 10% redacted. And,
that's pretty good.
Well, it is, except what isn't redacted is crazy ass stuff. So how the stuff that's been redacted, how insane was that? Because the stuff that is here, the stuff that is here is as direct as anything that you can have. I mean, when it starts off and it says, okay, 2 F-18s are scrambled on an unknown track, flight size of 3, right? 3 objects. It says it right here, and it says scrambled F-18, 3 UFOs. You know, it's like it can't be any more. What was redacted? You know, and so everything is here. You can see the points. But anyway, so as I continue down, it says there are no aircraft trailing. And then it goes on. It's a mess of stuff, and I can't read all of it. But like I said before, it says time to target for CF-18s is 90 seconds. And then right after that, Roger, thanks. I'm trying to read here. It's all in code. It's code. F-18s have contact at 35,000 feet. Contact made. And then it doesn't resolve anything. That's page 1. And then it continues on, only showing 1 target. CF-18s are on trail of the medevac as at this time. They are showing no contacts other than the medevac. Investigation continues. The medevac reported that the AC could not keep up with them, and 1 dropped off 15 minutes ago, and the other 2 dropped off 2 minutes ago to the left. I mean, it can't be any more direct.
Well, what you just read, the fact that they state contact made and then say nothing else implies that they've had contact before. They don't need to describe it.
It says here, CF-18s are going back to sanitize the area until they reach bingo fuel, at which time they will return to base. Fighters breaking off at this time and doing a high-low sweep. Fighters have been directed back to Lifeguard. Lifeguard AC has been diverted to Plain Field. F-18s have been directed off the Lifeguard and AC going back to sanitizing the area. F-18s are back sanitizing mission as of 12:29. That's the time. Fighters are sanitized and going north. I mean, it's crazy stuff. So
yeah, but you know what would really help? In the past, you used to put some of these special documents and photos on the Fade to Black page instead of just putting them in TweetDeck. Maybe you ought to do that with some of these.
Why?
I think more people would like to see them and look at them and study them and longer. And if they're on your
you could just download them right off of Twitter and just save the document. That's all you got to do. And
okay, well, some people don't tweet, but maybe put them on faders.org on our Facebook page.
It's possible, but all of this stuff was just received to us tonight, and sending this over to our web guys and having them update the website and everything else.
Okay, all right. Just a suggestion.
That's just too much. But, I mean, in real time, Dino. But if you want to start to handle all of that stuff, let me know. And if you can do it in a minute, 60 seconds and get it all done instead of listening to the show, let me know.
Okay, I understand.
I'm just being straight,
No, I know. You're busy. I understand. You got enough to do.
Yeah, it's the fastest, bestest way out there is not through our website. Get it up on Twitter, and I can continue the conversation. And I can review Twitter. I don't need to go back into our website and open up the website. I need to do all of this stuff in real time.
Okay. Well, it's all I can say is it's very compelling, I have to say once again, that he's done this, and he seems like the real deal. No one's put him up to it. He's not disinformation. What I wanted to know is, have any of the main media, other than seeing him on YouTube, have any of the main media picked him up or picked up when he was speaking in front of the
of course. Just go to his website. All the information is there.
Okay, all right. Because it's fascinating that more U.S. media hasn't picked up on it, too, you know.
Well, no. Go to his website, and all of the information is there. Who, what, when, and where, the journalists and the outlets that he utilized for the inquiry and the press conference and the information, everything is there.
Yeah,
but,
and then we have to be aware, of course, if this nothing much happens in the next few days. When did this press conference occur? What was the date?
Last Saturday.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So if it doesn't, then we, of course, go back to what we know, that most of the media in America is owned by about 4 or 5 entities, and they could block it out if they are part of the cabal, you know. So.
Oh, it's possible. It's possible, but we don't care about them, you know, and that's it. We can't depend. Nobody can. You cannot depend on that. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I think we ought to have a follow-up, too. I would request that in days or weeks, as this story develops, that we have him back on to see what else has happened or whether he's been approached by.
Well,
anybody.
we'll see. We'll see what happens after Coast. After this show and Coast, you know, which Coast has, you know, probably 5 times the audience that CNN has during the day. Okay.
Yeah.
And think about that. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, that's great.
All right.
Well, okay, I'll let someone else get in to see if they have another angle on it. But boy, it's one of the most exciting shows, I think, and it's got my head spinning. And by the way, before I go, we don't often do this, but let's send out a fader. Good vibes for Art Bell, because apparently he's in the hospital.
No, he's been out of the hospital for days, dude.
Oh, yeah,
he's fine.
You really got your finger on the pulse. But anyhow, we all wish him well as well.
Okay, you do that. All right, thank you so much.
All right.
Bye. All right. 323-825-5045. What do you think about these documents? They're pretty informative. And when you tie everything back to the letter, it's a paradox, isn't it? I love saying the word paradox, but it's a paradox. You know, it's the true definition of a paradox. You know, you send out this top secret information that is, you know, could possibly jeopardize the security of the United States, and you say that in the letter, but here it is. But don't do anything with it, but we're giving it to you anyway. And if you do anything with it or go to the media or anything else, you're going to be prosecuted. It doesn't make any sense, the Espionage Act. How is it espionage if you're giving the documents away? It's I mean, crazy. But the crazier part about all of it, it's real. It's real. This is not made up. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. 323-825-5045. All right, as promised, I got to go back to Ashley Madison. Yeah. Who out there subscribes to Ashley Madison? Who out there has been flirting on Ashley Madison? Well, I'm going to break your heart. Because apparently the dating website for cheaters has admitted that some women on its site weren't women at all, but virtual computer programs instead of, you know, something with a pulse. The company that runs the website, Avid Life Media, noted that detail in a public statement released yesterday on July 4th. It means that lots of men who paid money for the dating website's features, such as sending messages to supposed ladies, were actually spending cash, ducks, to speak to fembots. They thought they were cheating on their wives. But actually, they were cheating by themselves. And they had no idea. What do you do? Do you go back and ask for a refund, a credit back on your credit card? What do you do? You know, I'm serious. And are they? This is the thing. There was kind of a message that was sent that, okay, no more fembots. After everything that went down with Ashley and the hacking of their computers and the disclosure of everybody that was there. After all of that, then we hear this. And it's nuts. I have no idea how much Ashley Madison profits in a year. But you know it's a buttload, no pun intended, of money. Unbelievable. Check this out. Delta Airlines is taking a $450 million loss because jet fuel prices didn't go up and jump as much as the airline gambled and bet that they would. The Atlanta-based airlines had locked in fuel purchases in a contract known as a hedge at levels above the current market value, betting that jet fuel prices would climb. And they did indeed rise, but they didn't rise as much as they thought. They didn't go nearly as high as Delta anticipated, which made that hedge a losing bet. So Delta pulled out of the fuel contracts, which cost the airline nearly $500 million. Man, whoever better be unemployed right now. The United States now can claim, this is pretty serious, the United States can now claim that they have the largest total recoverable oil reserves in the world, with an estimated 264 billion recoverable barrels compared to 256 billion barrels for Russia and 212 billion barrels for Saudi Arabia. Who was missing from this report was Venezuela. The data were published yesterday by Rystad Energy and include proved and provable reserves, discoveries, and undiscovered fields. Who would have thunk? Now, does this tie to shale? Right? Is that what all of this and that shale technology? But the United States is clearly ahead of everybody else and now apparently can claim that we have the most oil in the world. And I have really good news for all of you Twinkie lovers out there. Ho-hos. Twinkies and ho-hos. Snacks Master Hostess is expected to go public later this year. That's right. You can get in now early on an IPO after its private investors rehabbed the company following that crushing bankruptcy back in 2012 that nearly wiped out the company's assets. And you remember what happened. Everybody in the country, including myself, went around buying up all the Twinkies that we could, and I did. The owners of Hostess, private equity firm Apollo Global Management, and billionaire investors C. Dean Metropoulos and his family, by the way, said today that they had reached a deal to turn the Twinkies maker into a publicly traded company with an enterprise value, check this, of $2.3 billion. Now, let's not forget, Hostess went belly up. They were liquidated in bankruptcy court. They had virtually no value. They shut down the company, laid off everybody. Remember that? I don't know what Apollo Global ended up purchasing the brand name of Hostess for, but it was next to nothing. And here we are in 2016. They've not only revived the company, and you can go and get your Twinkies. They don't taste the same. But anyway, why do you think Twinkies don't taste the same? Because when I was a kid, it was like creamy goodness, right? I mean, it had that amazing thing. And now that cream tastes like plastic. I've heard rumors that it was actually a petroleum byproduct. Always wondered if that was true. But they've turned it around. They made a profit this year of last year, $220 million in profit. How do you go from liquidation, virtually worthless? You know, all they really bought was the name and the recipes, right? To an IPO and an enterprise value of $2.3 billion. But I got to tell you, just like all of you, man, I grew up with Hostess, and seeing that go bye-bye, it was just un-American. Well, check this out. A vase that was created in somewhere between 1730 and 1790 in China, supposedly for the emperor at the time, it was being used as a doorstop. And somebody found it. And I'm telling you, it was being used as a doorstop up until when it was auctioned. They found it. They thought it was going to get between $400,000 and $600,000. Yes, it was being used as a doorstop. And it was auctioned yesterday by Hanson's for $850,000. Unbelievable. 10 million Android devices have been infected by a malware called Hummingbird. And what makes Hummingbird particularly dangerous is the group behind it, a team of developers in Yingmob, an otherwise legitimate multi-million-dollar advertising analytics agency based in Beijing. The malware installs a piece of software called a rootkit onto infected Android devices, giving the cyber criminals administration-level access to your smartphone. This access is then used to generate fraudulent advertising revenue. That's right, fake clicks. Unbelievable. 10 million Android devices worldwide, and apparently there's no real way to detect that it's there and running. This is Fade to Black. I got to thank Victor Viggiani tonight. It was one of the most amazing conversations, and we do it every single night. Last night, Manu. Tonight, Victor. Tomorrow night, Joshua P. Warren, right here on Fade to Black. Fade to Black's executive producers, Rita Kamarian. Show is produced by Hilton J. Paul, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, Mark Dunbar, Jonas, thank you, Dennis, thank you, Bob. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music, Doug Aldridge. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Syndication is KGRA, The Planet. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2016 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network. They cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Follow me right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. I want everybody to be safe. Go Backley Tappy.